Pang Si's square-inch universe system was not only effective on objects but also on people. As soon as he crossed hands with Xiang Beifei, his SSR system intelligently measured the volume of Xiang Beifei, converted his volume into Chengquan value, and factored it in. Quite capable. I didn't even know Unrestrained had someone like you. Pang Si surveyed Xiang Beifei, failing to recognize him. Xiang Beifei had not shown his true face. You are you. Su Yang, astounded, stared at Xiang Beifei, for he too failed to recognize him, but he recognized those golden patterns. Could it be? Could it be? Su Yang was beyond excited. He wanted to shout out an inquiry, but forcibly held back. The others, upon seeing a mysterious man suddenly appear to save them, were also quite surprised as they did not recognize him. However, at this point, several of them were also suffering injuries to their eyes and were even gasping for breath, unable to worry about anything else. Xiang Beifei scanned the lifeless village. Everyone in the village had been killed by Pang Si using his system abilities, including every chicken, duck, and goose, leaving no survivors. Pang Si's actions were thorough. He employed spatial rifts to assassinate, just like those who died in the spatial rifts when the void-devouring insects destroyed the building. Xiang Beifei looked at Pang Si's system interface, observing the flickering system values, and he understood why Pang Si had done this. Pang Si intended to pin the blame on the Unrestrained, telling the civilians of Jiuzhou that this was the Unrestrained's method of killing, unrelated to the void-devouring insects. Only by doing so could everyone continue to live in the system's snail dwelling. Only by doing so could he continue to exploit everyone living in the system's snail dwelling. Xiang Beifei remained silent. His fists burst into scorching flames. What, you want to avenge them? Pang Si, seeing the flames blazing on Xiang Beifei's body, asked disdainfully. Swish! Xiang Beifei's figure had already turned into a phantom. His explosive fist flame surged, charging directly toward Pang Si's forehead, responding with action. Is that all the speed you have? Pang Si sneered. In the realm of God refining, almost no martial artist could surpass Xiang Beifei's speed. But in Pang Si's eyes, it was still a beat slower. The orifice transforming stage and the late stage of God refining are two different concepts. He scoffed, and the square-inch universe system already started circulating swiftly. Hum, hum, hum. The space around Xiang Beifei suddenly twisted, forming several black spatial rifts. These rifts appeared in tricky positions, nearly surrounding every joint on Xiang Beifei's body. If Xiang Beifei moved slightly, those black spatial rifts would devour him. Square-inch universe. 1 square inch is an entire universe. Pang Si could slice space, making each square inch of space a small universe world. He could completely draw a person into his square-inch universe or only allow someone's arm or leg to enter, then forcibly close it off. Thus, part of the person's body would be severed into 2 worlds, achieving the purpose of cutting. That's the immense destructive power of spatial rifts. First see if you can break through my square-inch universe. Pang Si scoffed coldly. However, Xiang Beifei looked indifferently at the spatial rifts blocking his body. His advancing figure didn't slow down, still rushing toward Pang Si. Seeking death. Pang Si, seeing Xiang Beifei having no intention of slowing down, smirked, already foreseeing Xiang Beifei getting completely diced by the spatial rifts and brutally shredded by him. Swish! Swish! Xiang Beifei's body had already entered into the black spatial rifts. Pang Si sneered, shouting, Die! He instantly closed the spatial rifts. However, the next moment, Pang Si's face immediately froze. The scene he imagined where Xiang Beifei was cut to pieces didn't occur. Xiang Beifei, like nothing happened, had his arm that had just entered the spatial rift in one moment, stretching out from it in the next. How could this be? Pang Si exclaimed in surprise. Xiang Beifei had disregarded his system's spatial rifts. However, there was no time for him to think more, because Xiang Beifei's figure was already near, his explosive flames roaring toward him instantly. Damn it! Pang Si, being at the stage of orifice transforming, reacted quickly. Though his system's spatial rifts could not hinder Xiang Beifei, he immediately surged up powerful spiritual power, targeting Xiang Beifei's fist. However, at that moment, he suddenly felt something amiss, because he faintly sensed a slight whooshing sound behind him, which came very abruptly. His keen senses directed spiritual power also toward his back. Yet 2 bricks infused with golden patterns appeared out of nowhere, disregarding Pang Si's spiritual power and kept advancing. Pang Si's brow furrowed, realizing that these bricks were unusual. Black spatial rifts reappeared, ready to devour those bricks using spatial rifts. Yet the bricks still disregarded his spatial rifts. Damn it, what the hell? Pang Si found that neither spiritual power nor the spatial rift could block those 2 turnings. So he swung his left hand to grab the brick. Just as he grabbed the brick with his left hand, the golden patterns on the brick immediately started to spread upward along his fingers, and Pang Si's face changed color instantly. He discovered that his fingers couldn't move at all. This brick was eerie. Without a second thought, he severed his own fingers, stopping the spread of the golden patterns. However, in the moment Pang Si was distracted, Xiang Beifei's fist had already come flying, striking Pang Si right on the forehead. Bang! His fist was so powerful that it nearly cracked Pang Si's entire skull. You little beast! Pang Si quickly recovered. His figure instantly vanished from the spot, breaking through the void and moving 50 meters away. How can this guy be so powerful? Pang Si was secretly shocked. His body was protected by spiritual power, which normally would be solid as a rock, enough for a God-refining late-stage martial artist, enough to withstand the late stage of God-refining power, but somehow he could not dissipate this man's force. Not only that, but the opponent's immense strength was even negating the spiritual power that he was sending flying toward him. Swish! 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 But Xiang Beifei didn't give Pang Si a chance to think, as he swung his fists again and charged towards Pang Si. Swoosh! Swoosh! Their figures rapidly crisscrossed in the air, clashing no less than a dozen times in an instant. Bang! Pang Si cried out in pain as his ribs were smashed by Xiang Beifei's punch. Damn it! This kid is too much trouble. While the damage was minor for Pang Si, the fight was becoming increasingly frustrating for him. He had to constantly be wary of the bricks that mysteriously shot out from different directions, all the while dealing with Xiang Beifei's whirlwind-like barrage of punches. Under normal circumstances, Xiang Beifei wouldn't have been able to touch Pang Si at all, as Pang Si was much faster. But every time, Xiang Beifei used the cover of the bricks to contend with him. The bricks appeared from extremely tricky positions, and after suffering once, Pang Si dared not underestimate them anymore, so he had to dodge the bricks. But every time he dodged, his body had to change position, and Xiang Beifei always seemed to predict his dodging spot and then punched him squarely. In just a few seconds, Pang Si was covered with bruises. Detecting the host's body has 13 bone fractures. Would you like to repair the body? Repair. Pang Si growled, annoyed. 1,000 Chenquan values spent to exchange for a revitalizing pill. Pang Si was pondering when his body had already recovered. However, when he looked down, he discovered that his body hadn't healed at all. The revitalizing pill was ineffective. How is this possible? The injury isn't severe, so why can't it be healed? Pang Si couldn't understand where his revitalizing pill had gone. But at that moment, Xiang Beifei came charging again, landing a punch on his arm, the powerful rebound force tumbling and directly cracking the bones in his arm. You little beast, I'll show you. Spend 10,000 Chenquan values to exchange for a restoration pill. Pang Si commanded his system silently. 10,000 Chenquan values spent to exchange for a restoration pill. Bang! Yet Pang Si took another solid punch from Xiang Beifei. His restoration pill was still ineffective. Damn it! What's going on? Why can't this injury be healed? Pang Si roared at his system. System evaluation in progress. The restoration pill has been issued and applied to the host. Applied my ass. Pang Si was incredibly annoyed. He had used the restoration pill and revitalizing pill before and knew their effects better than anyone. Yet somehow his injuries showed no signs of healing. He couldn't figure out why. But soon, Xiang Beifei hurled another punch. Exchange for a powerful armor. After taking another punch from Xiang Beifei, Pang Si decided to rely on his system's defense to combat Xiang Beifei. 100,000 Chenquan values spent to exchange for protective armor. Bang! Pang Si was once again struck by Xiang Beifei's punch in his face. He still couldn't perceive any trace of the protective armor. For some reason, the items he exchanged for once again vanished without a trace. Pang Si still didn't understand what was happening, but in fact, everything was due to when he first engaged with Xiang Beifei. His estimate of Xiang Beifei's body volume had added 1 Chenquan value to himself, and it was this 1 Chenquan value that caused his square-inch universe system to completely malfunction in front of Xiang Beifei. Xiaohei, we need to find an acquaintance to help us and also collect a debt, Xiang Beifei said. Woof, Xiaohei asked, puzzled. Xiang Beifei stood up, rubbed his fists, and said, Yang Chengze. Yang Chengze was a team leader at Yenzhou University, and he was one of Minister Zhu Yiji's men. During the incident where Zhu Xinjue changed his name and identity, Yang Chengze was also involved. Under the instruction of Zhu Yiji, he used his SR-level subtle influence to sway some who suspected that Zhu Xinjue was actually Zhu Pengfei. After Xiang Beifei led his team out of the withered forest, Yang Chengze went to question him and even tried to pin Zhu Xinjue's death on Xiang Beifei. Unfortunately, he still underestimated Xiang Beifei. But last time, Xiang Beifei wasn't strong enough to truly influence Yang Chengze's thoughts. He could only guide him to some extent, but now things were different. But Xiaohei had already dashed out from under Professor Guo's feet, extending his little claw and shattering the square and round rules under Sun Hushuan's feet. Minister Zhu. Commander He. You two are going too far. Sun Hushuan initially was restrained, but as soon as he broke free, he immediately called out to stop them. Zhu Yiji's expression darkened once more. Sun Hushuan had also broken through his own square and round rules, but Zhu Yiji could no longer take action. Today's events simply didn't leave him in a position to stand on solid ground. Once he acted against anyone, yet it also made He Kaiwei realize something. He still had a chance to prove his innocence. He had been dragged into this affair. But those words were only heard by Zhao Yong from Wu Shishuan's mouth, claiming he was the instigator. Even if Zhao Yong said so, it couldn't directly prove that the act of framing him was related to him. The only way for him to clear himself of this situation now was to sacrifice the car to save his bishop, meaning Wu Shixian had to be kicked out. He could just say Wu Shixian was framing him. A hint of coldness flashed in He Kaiwei's eyes. The entire meeting room had become tense and confrontational. Everyone stop. Don't be too presumptuous. Minister Zhu Yiji finally stood up and said coldly, You three, daring to cause chaos at the school. Do you really not take me seriously? His gaze was like an eagle's, fixed on the three of them, especially lingering on Xiang Beifei. Even he hadn't noticed how Xiang Beifei had appeared in the classroom, which made him feel apprehensive. But at this moment, Zhu Yiji's aura was like the sun at its zenith. He was still the most powerful person here. He could still suppress these few people. He swiftly looked toward his system interface. Detection. Luo Yunxian is furious. Would you like to spend uniqueness value to strengthen your defense? 10 million. But Luo Yunxian had already raised his hand. When He Kaiwei's momentum hit the invisible barrier in front of Professor Guo, it was like smashing into a solid wall. This wall was surrounded on all sides by strange spiritual power, which dissipated and transformed all of He Kaiwei's attacks, and then redirected them, following the same path, back against him. He Kaiwei was once again repelled by Professor Guo's counterattack. To be precise, he was repelled by his own momentum. How could this be? He Kaiwei stared intently at Professor Guo. Before, he only knew that Professor Guo was strong, but because Professor Guo was only in the middle stage of orifice transforming, he never took the SR-level Professor Guo seriously. But he neglected one thing. Professor Guo, being in the middle stage of orifice transforming, might not have many attacking methods or great attacking power, but he has the strongest defense in the alliance. This defense was his confidence to withstand the late stages of orifice-transforming martial artists with his mid-stage power. For him, the strongest defense was a counterattack. And He Kaiwei simply could not shake him. "What's going on? Tell the truth," Zhu Yiji demanded. Zhao Yong slapped his forehead and said, Wu Shixian was mumbling to himself at the time. He said that Minister Zhu Yiji and He Kaiwei both wanted to deal with Luo Yunxian, and that he would handle Professor Guo, who was close to Luo Yunxian, first. We would have to bear false witness to frame Professor Guo. If he did a good job, he would be greatly rewarded. Yes. There was also someone named Zhu Yiji, just like He Kaiwei, who instructed Wu Shixian to frame Professor Guo. Zhao Yong blurted out everything at once. As his words came out, the entire meeting room fell silent. The more than 20 leaders of Liangzhou University present all sucked in a breath of cold air. Zhu Yiji? Zhao Yong actually said that Zhu Yiji also took part in framing Professor Guo. You should know that Zhu Yiji's ability for frankness without evasion was witnessed by all. Inside this black square, absolutely no one would lie. That means what Zhao Yong was saying right now was 100% truth. Zhu Yiji had Zhao Yong speak out that Zhu Yiji was also a culprit? Mr. E, how about your spiritual defense? Can you block the influence of the UR Awakener system like Elder Luo? Xiang Beifei asked. Many high-level system awakeners can control lower-level systems with their own. Yi Chongfeng's strength and talent were only slightly above average in the alliance, but not by much. Barely. Many in the alliance have issues with Elder Luo and have tried to probe his secrets through me, so I specifically followed Elder Luo to strengthen my spiritual power. I may not reach his level, but at least I can protect myself, Yi Chongfeng replied. Yi Chongfeng's spiritual power was very strong. After all, he was also Elder Luo's direct disciple. His talent compared to Xiang Beifei might seem insignificant, but in reality he was far superior to other SRs. Many in the alliance were eyeing Elder Luo with envy, and naturally, they would concoct schemes to undermine Yi Chongfeng. Capabilities like forcing the truth or muddling facts, which all fall under the category of spiritual manipulation, were the very reasons he trained so intensely in spiritual defense, to thwart such incidents from happening. Only after ascertaining this did Xiang Beifei speak. Actually, this matter has to do with me. In the end, he laid out the whole story, omitting only the parts about Shaoshang, his grandfather, and that mountain. After hearing everything, Yi Chongfeng was extremely shocked. Such a big issue, why are you only mentioning it now? Why didn't you tell us earlier? If you didn't want to tell me, you should at least have informed Elder Luo. Yi Chongfeng appeared quite angry, and even a bit frightened. Although Xiang Beifei's account sounded nonchalant, Yi Chongfeng could easily imagine how perilous the actual situation was at that time. What do you think Elder Luo would do if I told him? Xiang Beifei asked. Yi Chongfeng was momentarily taken aback before he finally realized the situation. I was too hasty. He knew Elder Luo well, a protective old man who would confront He Kaiwei without a second thought. However, if He Kaiwei dared to act as he did, he would naturally have his contingency plans, and he'd manage to wash his hands clean of the whole affair. Then it would be Elder Luo who would be at a disadvantage. Elder Luo was already marginalized by the alliance, and confronting someone without evidence was far from wise. Furrowed brows, Yi Chongfeng weighed the pros and cons of the situation before saying sternly, no matter what, you must never admit to killing anyone. Understand? I understand. SR Awakeners, from the beginning of Meridian opening to the refinement of the soul at the God refining stage, would need at least 3 to 5 years, if not longer. SSR Awakeners also needed about 2 to 4 years to reach the God refining stage. URs were the fastest, typically taking about 1 to 2 years to step into the God refining stage without any problem. The videos that couldn't be deleted were all manipulated by it. The Alliance had various formidable network technology awakeners, yet faced with the footage set up by Xiaohe, they could do nothing. No matter how they employed system items, they couldn't erase the related videos. At that moment, Elder Luo's lazy voice came from the corner. Otherwise, how should we converse? At the martial arts college, we speak with our fists. Why don't you two have a fight? Wei Tong turned his head and realized that somehow Elder Luo was sitting there. His face quickly changed. Fight? Are you joking? Although he was an SSR, he couldn't withstand a single punch from Yi Changfeng. And Shiyu, who was at one side, realized something and spoke up. You've reached the later stages of meridian opening? Professor Guo also came to his senses and looked at Xiang Beifei in astonishment. He knew that Xiang Beifei was gifted, but by all accounts, he should be at most at the mid-stage of meridian opening by now. How could he have advanced to such a level so suddenly? After pondering for a moment, Xiang Beifei shook his head. Not yet. So your level of cultivation is? Professor Guo asked tentatively. Mid-stage of meridian opening, Xiang Beifei replied. It wasn't that he didn't trust Professor Guo. Frankly, he was worried about Shiyu. Last semester, Shiyu followed his advice and chose to develop within the Alliance, currently interning there. The Alliance had been monitoring him all along, searching for his information, so they would certainly leave no stone unturned in finding a breakthrough from the people around him, and obviously, Shiyu was one of them. Of course, Xiang Beifei trusted that Shiyu, with her character, wouldn't actively betray him, but after all, she was just an SR in the later stages of meridian opening. Should an SSR like Mu Yiqing, who was in the later stages of God refining, appear, it would be easy for them to silently extract information from Shiyu's mouth, despite Liangzhou University's various confidentiality measures for students. Liangzhou University was no longer strictly its own entity. For example, the person in charge of the martial arts college from the literary Dao was someone sent by the Alliance, all keeping an eye on Xiang Beifei. His own progress and cultivation had already been fast enough, reaching the initial stages of meridian opening in half a year with the help of the awakening system, and not even a year to reach the later stages of meridian opening, outstripping normal SSRs by a vast margin. This terrifying speed of cultivation could not even be achieved by UR awakeners. If those people knew how quickly he was improving, they'd likely stop at nothing to cause him trouble. Therefore, Xiang Beifei had to keep it hidden until he broke through to the God refining stage. It was only then that he would truly have the ability to protect himself, no longer fearing people like He Kaiwei. And they could even unexpectedly teach a lesson to those lofty SSR and UR officials of the Alliance. He had already spread this news, and not long ago, he specifically exhibited his mid-stage meridian opening strength in front of many students, so as to put He Kaiwei at ease. Now He Kaiwei would definitely think that it was Elder Luo who had killed those 3 people back then and wouldn't dare to act rashly. With He Kaiwei and the others focusing on Elder Luo, they wouldn't pay attention to Xiang Beifei, whose cultivation was only at the mid-stage of meridian opening. Once he attained a certain level of cultivation, he would burst out and participate in group fights. So that's how it is. Professor Guo could accept this level of strength, but he was obviously a bit disinterested. He really hoped that Xiang Beifei's cultivation was at the late stage of meridian opening. Then why did you ask about the matters of the soul? Professor Guo asked again. A powerful aura condensed around him into a sharp and penetrating force, quietly landing on Ma Kaiyan. When Ma Kaiyan saw Xiang Beifei, he shivered in his heart, frightened by the terrifying aura of Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei was rumored to be able to kill a late-stage meridian opening one-armed crab with a single punch. His presence here was certainly not for fun. Ma Kaiyan steadied his nerves and cursed quietly. After all, he was an official of the Alliance, and this youngster, no matter how famous, was still just an ordinary citizen without power or influence. It should be him who was afraid. Xiang Beifei, quite the big shot, huh? Ma Kaiyan said with a mocking tone. Xiang Beifei didn't say anything, glanced at him indifferently, and then walked towards Kong Daming, asking, I saw the phone message just now. What happened to my grandfather? I don't know. He seemed a bit uneasy just now, so I helped him upstairs to rest, and he's upstairs now, Kong Daming said. Got it. I'll go up and see him. Xiang Beifei, without another word, headed for the stairs. However, Ma Kaiyan, seeing that he had been ignored, was quite annoyed. Humph. Not even basic etiquette at this point. Scram. Xiang Beifei said directly. Yes. Ma Kaiyan's mind went blank, and then, involuntarily, he lay down and actually rolled away from the scene. Ah? Kong Daming and Zhang Xiang watched Ma Cainian roll away on the ground, shocked and completely stunned for a moment. Ma Cainian actually just rolled away like that? This turn of events caught them both off guard. Why do we have to patrol the archive department? Who would have nothing better to do than to come steal from the archives? If you ask me, it wouldn't even matter if we didn't come here for a year, Zhou Guan said lazily, holding the back of his head while following Sun Zhong. He wasn't very interested in this job and kept grumbling along the way. Sun Zhong walked to the third floor and patrolled past a line of rooms. You patrolled the N-level talent review department. Patrol points +2. You patrolled the N-level talent dispatch department. Patrol points +2. Sun Zhong made 2 rounds in the empty room, pressed a button on the wall to confirm the alarm was working correctly, and then left the room. You patrolled the entrance to the general archives. Patrol points +5. But just then, Zhang Xing had a thought, hurriedly took out his phone to video call his son, and then asked, "Son, you said you saw Xiang Beifei last time? Is this person Xiang Beifei?" During the freshman competition, although the students from elite schools had not been present, the event had been broadcast live so anyone with eyes could recognize him. Although Zhang Xing's son was from Ji, Pang Si was completely stunned. He had actually lost. An orifice-transforming martial artist, defeated by a stranger whose cultivation level was clearly only at the late stage of God refining. Who on earth was this person? How could there be someone so powerful in the unrestrained? How was he able to control the spatial rifts he himself had created? Most importantly, why couldn't his wounds heal until now? As Pang Si lay under Xiang Beifei's foot, countless questions tormented him, filling him with frustration and anger. He just couldn't comprehend how Xiang Beifei had managed to do this. He was the only one who should be able to control the spatial rifts he created, yet in the end they had become channels for Xiang Beifei to use against him. This almost made him explode with rage. He could create various spatial rifts in different Chenquan worlds and then establish channels between these worlds. Since Pang Si had mastered this ability early on, Xiang Beifei indeed had no way of controlling these channels at first. At most, he could only rely on his ability to suppress the system, allowing him to ignore these channels and not be swallowed by them. But what Pang Si should not have done was to absorb Xiang Beifei's breath soil. Once Xiang Beifei's breath soil entered into his Chenquan world, it acted like a guiding light, quickly figuring out the spatial passages of each Chenquan world, and then assisting Xiang Beifei in finding a route for a counterattack. It was the markings of the breath soil that allowed Xiang Beifei to understand where each spatial rift created by Pang Si would lead, so he could use these rifts to strike Pang Si from a distance. At this moment, Pang Si, pinned to the ground by Xiang Beifei, didn't even have a chance to struggle. "You little rascal. Today is just my bad luck. But remember this. Don't let me have the chance to encounter you again." Although Pang Si was pinned down, he could still speak. However, his spiritual power could not disperse this force, so he planned to abandon his body and escape as an orifice soul. Reaching the God-refining and orifice-transforming stages is a relatively special realm. When martial artists reach this realm, it's like having 2 lives. If the body is destroyed, they still have the soul or orifice soul. As long as the soul is intact, they can be reborn using special methods. Pang Si decided to use the method of shedding the shell, abandoning his body. His gaze turned fierce as he immediately circulated his spiritual power, separating his orifice soul from his body. Then the next step was to drill out of the body from some opening. With his orifice transforming strength, if he wanted to escape, Xiang Beifei wouldn't be able to stop him. But soon, his expression turned to panic, because although his orifice soul was clearly separated from his body, he couldn't escape from it. His body was like a sealed container, which was firmly trapping his orifice soul inside. How is this possible? What the hell was this golden array pattern? And why was it so powerful? Pang Si was terrified beyond measure. Xiang Beifei looked at Pang Si with a cold gaze. His brick was not yet able to pin down the divine soul and orifice soul, which is why Pang Si could still speak despite being pinned down. But once the brick pinned down the body, it was akin to sealing the body, a type of restraint the divine soul and orifice soul couldn't possibly break. Shua! A white light appeared on Xiang Beifei's hand, and this light quickly burrowed into every orifice of Pang Si's body. Revert to simplicity. The speed of revert to simplicity was quite slow, and Xiang Beifei rarely used it in battle because, although its destructive power was great, it was easily avoidable due to its sluggish pace. However, now that Pang Si had been pinned by the brick, revert to simplicity no longer had any restraints. The breath of this energy immediately invaded Pang Si's body, aiming for his orifice soul. Damn it! What is this? Pang Si attempted to disperse this energy, but as soon as his orifice soul touched the aura of revert to simplicity, it started to show signs of instability. The orifice soul he had painstakingly condensed began to collapse. Pang Si began to panic. If his orifice soul was destroyed by this force, then he would be finished. Quick! Quick! Find a way to clear this stuff out. Pang Si shouted in his mind to the system. Host's orifice soul is detected to be under severe threat. Would you like to spend 10 million Chenkuan value to exchange for a 9 Dragons Protector armor? Yes. Exchange it for me. Pang Si did not hesitate, for cultivating an orifice soul was extremely difficult. Once an orifice soul is compromised, it would be a fatal blow to him. 9 Dragons Protector armor has been exchanged. Remaining Chenkuan value 60245125. Pang Si watched his orifice soul anxiously, waiting to be enveloped in the 9 Dragons Protector armor to withstand the breath of revert to simplicity. However, after waiting for a long time, he realized that nothing had appeared on his body. Revert to simplicity had already begun to engulf his orifice soul's mind, moving towards engulfing his consciousness. Don't! Stop! Pang Si screamed in terror. Host's orifice soul is still under severe threat. Would you like to spend 20 million Chenkuan value to exchange for a Myriad Law's Divine Aperture Talisman? Exchange! You must find a way to preserve my orifice soul. Pang Si bellowed in his mind. 20 million Chenkuan value spent to exchange for a Myriad Law's Divine Aperture Talisman. Remaining Chenkuan value 40245125. Yet Pang Si still let out a heart-wrenching scream, because the Myriad Law's Divine Aperture Talisman had no idea where it went. His divine aperture was still being devoured by Xiang Beifei. Damn it! Quick! Help me calculate if there's anything that can assist me in escaping this trap. Exchange whatever it takes at all costs. Pang Si roared painfully in his mind. His orifice soul was injured, which caused excruciating, heart-wrenching pain. Pang Si was so twisted with agony that he even forgot to ponder why all those system items had become ineffective. He simply assumed that Xiang Beifei's tactics were too bizarre and the protective measures were useless. He had to continue increasing his system value to bolster his own defenses. Does the host wish to spend all current system values to use Rebirth in Desperation? The host's orifice soul has already separated from the body and is trapped within. A piece of flesh can be evaporated from within the current body to create a vacuum and form a spatial passage for escape. Rebirth in Desperation, the ultimate life-saving measure of the square-inch universe system. When in dire straits, one can spend all Chenkuan values in one go to create a powerful escape portal. The more Chenkuan values are spent, the greater the likelihood of escape. But the downside of this ability is, it consumes all Chenkuan values, meaning that after successfully escaping, Pang Si's Chenkuan value would drop to 0, and he would have to start collecting from scratch again. Yes, as long as I can get out. All of it. Pang Si shouted eagerly, because the aura of return to the original state had already interfered with his consciousness. He couldn't care less at that point. Where there's life, there's hope. 40245125 Chenkuan values spent to cast Rebirth in Desperation. Evaluating the current success rate of escape based on the opponent's strength, the power of the host's orifice soul, and the physical condition. Escape success rate 100%. 100%. Pang Si's already pain-clouded consciousness suddenly perked up. So his ultimate trump card could guarantee 100% escape chance. What was he waiting for then? Hurry! He became excited. This was just a loss of Qianquan values. It had no impact on his cultivation level. As long as he lived, with his SSR level system combined with his position in the Alliance, making a comeback would only take a few years. As long as he escaped, he would definitely come back to seek revenge. Whoosh! A light instantly lit up inside Pang Si's body, carving out a piece of flesh to make space. Then, the light began to rapidly evolve, and the escape corridor was about to open. However, buzz! The light suddenly went out and vanished without a trace. Pang Si was stunned. What happened to the promised 100% escape? Why did the escape portal disappear? What happened to his guaranteed rebirth in desperation with a 100% success rate? Pang Si looked at his system interface in shock and rage. Current Qianquan value, 0. He didn't understand. Hadn't he just been assessed with a 100% chance of escape? Why, after spending all his Qianquan values, was he still trapped in this wretched body? Why? Why? Are you messing with me? Why did this happen? Pang Si nearly lost his mind. He was no longer communicating with the system in his mind. Instead, he was outright shouting, "Because you deserve to die." Xiang Beifei, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke slowly. Pang Si fell into despair, shouting as if he had gone mad. "You can't kill me. I'm the chief of the Qingzhou Border Quarantine Department. Every SSR in the Alliance is protected by the Alliance. They will know if something happens and mark the murderer with a mark made by UR-level powerhouses of the Heavenly Connection Realm. If you dare to kill me, the Alliance will hunt you down to the ends of the earth. You've killed an entire village of villagers," Xiang Beifei said slowly. "So what? They're just N-level awakeners. A few more or less doesn't make any difference. I am an SSR in the Alliance. My life is much more valuable than theirs. If you think you're avenging them by killing me, then you're digging your own grave," Pang Si roared. "You're right, I should go dig some graves." Xiang Beifei looked towards the distant village and, after a moment of silence, said, "To bury all the leaders in the Alliance like you who have lost their humanity." "You!" Pang Si looked at Xiang Beifei in shock. He had intended to mock Xiang Beifei for dreaming, but for some reason, he suddenly felt a shock in his heart. Xiang Beifei's aura and cultivation weren't strong, but it made him feel a spiritual tremor. Xiang Beifei waved his hand. Ah! Pang Si's orifice soul was gnawed away bit by the revert to simplicity, erasing his consciousness completely. Xiaohe opened its mouth and directly refined Pang Si's orifice soul into the purest spiritual power crystal. "I just don't believe N-level awakeners have that much potential. Their systems are so useless they can only achieve so little in a lifetime. It's impossible for them to have such strength." Long Guoqing gritted his teeth and said, "Why can't N-level awakeners defeat SRs? Shang Tianxiong is also an N-level awakener. How many can surpass him? Those with strength can even kill SSRs with an SR rating. Everyone is surviving in this world, all just humans. You aren't nobler than anyone. You're just starting from a higher point than others. That doesn't mean your future will be better than theirs. Be more humble," Xiang Beifei said, and then he went back to his compartment. "Be humble." Long Guoqing's expression alternated between cloudy and clear as he pondered Xiang Beifei's words. Around 9 o'clock in the evening, Yi Changfeng gathered everyone together as he had obtained the schedule and rules for tomorrow's competition. Elder Luo said, "We need to discuss tomorrow's situation first. Everyone has to be more vigilant." The rules were clear to everyone. The new student trials consisted of individual matches and team pioneering. In individual matches, the 9 schools would compete in a round-robin format, facing each other only once, meaning each school would fight 8 battles, amounting to 36 matches in total, to be carried out over 2 days. It would be decided by a dice roll whether the participants were in the Meridian Opening or the Qi Controlling stage. For tomorrow's schedule, the first match is Jizhou University against Yenzhou University. Our match isn't first, which is good. We can observe the strengths of the other schools first. However, the second match is between Qingzhou University and Liangzhou University. Yi Changfeng said as he handed out a flyer to everyone, who studied the schedule with solemn expressions. Yu Qixin, talk to them about the current strength of each school this year, Elder Luo instructed. Yu Qixin glanced at Xiang Beifei expressionlessly before beginning his introduction. There's a rule that no one can participate in more than 2 matches. So, we'll need to analyze the situation with the other teachers and then decide how to allocate the 5 of you for the order of matches and opponents, he said. This was like racing horses arranged by Tianji, but not quite the same. In Tianji's horse racing, there were 3 matches with room to perform. However, since each school only faced another in 1 match, it was basically random. Generally, schools hope that other schools will first deal with the powerful students from other schools, using up their 2 quotas so that when they face them, they'd only have weaker students left to send out. For example, with Qingzhou University and Liangzhou University, Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs this year, both of whom can only participate in 2 matches each, meaning at most, these 2 SSRs can only fight in 4 matches. Therefore, Yi Changfeng hoped that Qingzhou University would use all 4 opportunities these SSRs had to fight against the other 7 schools, so by the time they faced his own school, their quotas would be used up, leaving only the SRs to fight, which would increase their chances of winning. However, all schools are elite institutions, and the teachers leading them certainly understand this principle, so the allocation of participants will become a psychological game. Before entering the arena, no one can know whether the other side will send out their strong or weak participants. You should also be aware, our school doesn't have any SSRs this year, meaning our strength is weaker than other schools. It's going to be hard for you to gain an advantage in the individual matches, Yu Qixin said, fixing his gaze on Xiang Beifei. Aside from Qingzhou University, Yenzhou University, and Jizhou University, the other schools also have only 1 SSR, which is just 1 person in the Meridian opening stage. We don't need to worry too much. At least we have student Xiang Beifei, Shikiyao said timidly from the side. The situation isn't that simple, Elder Luo spoke. In individual matches, there are only 8 battles, each worth 1 point, so the total points are very important. But have you considered, for the sake of higher overall points, the other schools will definitely find a way to secure that 1 point? And whose victory is almost guaranteed for getting that 1 point? Long Guocheng and the others realized. From Liangzhou University? The other 8 schools all had a common understanding that Liangzhou University didn't have any SSRs this year, meaning they had no students in the Meridian opening stage. So, to grab a guaranteed point, they would definitely send an SSR in the Meridian opening stage against Liangzhou University, which was almost a sure win. People always go for the low-hanging fruit, aiming to squeeze an easy point first. Exactly. Our opponents in each match might all be SSRs in the Meridian opening stage, Elder Luo said with profound implications. Everyone's expression grew heavier. All right, as for how to allocate our participants and how to break through this deadlock, you 5 need to discuss it among yourselves, said Elder Luo. Seriously, why do they have to make a simple new student trial so complex? Ma Ziqian mumbled to himself. For martial artists like them, the most straightforward approach would be to have a head-on clash, the simplest solution. Because this is also a tactic, Elder Luo said. Facing an opponent with uneven strength, how to arrange your players to break through the deadlock and gain more victories is a type of command strategy. The elite schools trials aren't just about martial strength. They also test the ability to adapt to different situations on the fly. Figuring out how to most effectively use limited personnel is a test for the team leaders as well as the new students. Developing this kind of thinking can also be applied to battles against beast tides in the future. Elite martial arts colleges at universities are primarily dedicated to training pioneers and guardians, which means their fundamental curriculum revolves around combat. When facing a beast tide, the strength of desolate beasts is unequal, so each school must teach students how to utilize effective manpower to maximize combat power. This new student competition seems very unfair at first glance, with Meridian opening students potentially facing off against those in the Qi controlling phase, resulting in a one-sided trend that doesn't truly reflect the freshman's abilities. However, the reality is, When facing desolate beasts, there is never any talk of fairness. In battles with desolate beasts, their strength is often a bit more overwhelming. Therefore, how to achieve victory and score the most points is actually a test of the tactical coordination abilities of the various universities. Which battles to give up on, which to commit all resources to, who to dispatch against different opponents, learning to choose wisely, engaging in psychological gamesmanship with each other. It's not only a contest of courage but also of strategy. Although Elder Luo usually seems bored to death and far from serious, he once served as the Grand Commander of the Jojo Alliance's resistance against the Beast Tide, with a formidable strategic vision for commanding battles. He couldn't be clearer about the original intention behind this type of competition among the 9 elite schools. In other words, Elder Luo has an idea of how to break through this situation, but he didn't spell it out. He wanted Xiang Beifei and his team to think for themselves first, as this is also a form of training. If their ideas don't work out, then Elder Luo would provide further guidance. Hearing Elder Luo's words, no one had any more grounds to complain. Yi Changfeng and Yu Qixin also sat to the side, staying silent and watching the 5 members led by Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei and the others remained quiet. After a long while, Long Guocheng was the first to speak. Tomorrow's competition, our first match is the second round, against Qingzhou University. We don't know who they will send to face us. Xiang Beifei said, the person Qingzhou University sends over tomorrow will definitely be Ho Chengguo. No surprises there. Long Guocheng asked, are you so sure? Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs, 1 UR, and 2 SRs, and they still haven't confirmed their selections. Xiang Beifei said, it will be Ho Chengguo. He initially refused Liangzhou University and switched to Qingzhou University. He must prove to others that not choosing Liangzhou University was the right decision, and he will prove it by personally defeating us. That makes sense. Li Zimu nodded thoughtfully. I suppose after you refuted him today, he would want to take revenge. Xiang Beifei, are you capable of defeating Ho Chengguo? Shi Qiao asked. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. The expressions on Long Guocheng and the others improved a little, as they all recognized Xiang Beifei's strength by now. This fellow might not be an SSR, but his strength was ridiculously strong. With him around, even if Liangzhou University might not be as overtly strong as those top 3 schools, they were still on par with the other universities. But if the other schools all send SSRs to face us, we are almost certain to lose. Xiang Beifei can only enter the field twice, meaning at most he can score 2 points, but we 4 are most likely to lose, Ma Ziqin said. Unless we figure out a way to prevent them from all using SSRs against us, Li Zimu said. They all think we're easy targets now. How can we change their minds? Long Guocheng asked. It's simple. We must let them know we aren't that weak, Xiang Beifei said. Li Zimu caught on and said, I get it now. We have to show them that our school also has a Meridian Opening Phase student. That way, they won't all send Meridian Opening students against us. This means, Xiang Beifei, you must enter the field tomorrow against Qingzhou University. A person can appear on the stage at most twice. Thus, after Xiang Beifei's first move, as long as he slightly reveals his power, it would be enough to intimidate people from other schools and make them wary. Realizing that the persimmon of Liangzhou University might not be so easy to squeeze, because if the SSR they send out encounters Xiang Beifei, the tough opponent, and loses, it would be a significant loss. Therefore, the other schools would not recklessly send their SSRs to challenge Liangzhou University. This ability is very unique. Any creature or person with sins can be targeted by it, and a covering door will automatically form in the mind, even if this covering door is not originally the opponent's weakness. Take, for example, the triangular thunderkite, whose original weakness is in its eyes, but if Yu Qixin uses the 7 deadly sins kill, he can forcibly shift this weakness to somewhere else, such as transferring the covering door to the tail of the triangular thunderkite. Then, as long as Yu Qixin hits the tail of the triangular thunderkite, it will surely die. This ability is amazing, forcibly changing the opponent's weakness. Xiang Beifei was quite impressed. Yes, I heard that originally 2 SSR Awakeners were going to come to our Liangzhou University, but because Liangzhou University admitted an N level, Those two SSRs looked down on our university and went to other elite schools instead. Wouldn't the school be furious? Losing two SSRs over an N-level student. Exactly. That N-level awakener really knows how to stir trouble. Just then, Xiang Beifei let out a startled exclamation because he noticed that a figure had suddenly appeared behind the baby. This figure seemed to have teleported there, holding a sword in hand and exuding a powerful aura, ignoring all the tendrils. It was Yi Changfeng. Yi Changfeng frowned as he looked at the baby, and then he swung his sword at the baby. The baby seemed to react, but before it could turn around, Yi Changfeng's sword had already cut it in two. However, the baby did not dissipate. After it was split, countless tendrils sprang out of its body and merged into the surrounding tendrils. To death with you! Yi Changfeng gripped his long sword and struck out another sword blow forward. This sword was like a bolt of lightning, carrying a terrifying force. The chilling sword chi stretched for hundreds of meters, creating a crack through the sky of tendrils. As the tendrils were split apart, they tried to reassemble, but soon countless bursts of sword chi exploded among them. Boom! 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 All the tendrils failed to escape under Yi Changfeng's sword and were utterly destroyed. The sliced tendrils were shredded by the sword chi, and the remaining tendrils, now fearful, began to retreat toward the ground and quickly disappeared from sight. You all wait here. Don't run around. Yi Changfeng flung his sword, and the Long Yuan sword hovered above their heads, as if to protect them. Meanwhile, another sword appeared in his hand, and with a step, his figure flickered and vanished into thin air. Thank goodness Mr. Yi came. Fan Kai sighed in relief, knowing that if Mr. Yi had not arrived in time, they might have been doomed on this venture. But Sun Yushan didn't quite understand and asked, "What kind of desolate beast is this? Why have we never seen it before?" The two of them had also trained in the cultivated domain for 3 years, and they were fairly familiar with the types of desolate beasts there. Some desolate beasts, although powerful, had never been as troublesome as this time. They hadn't expected that today they would nearly lose their lives. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment and then turned to Xiaohe. Xiaohe, you should be able to lead him out of this space, right? Xiaohe nodded. This was a space created by the system, and no power of the system could trap Xiaohe. It could leave the system's constraints at will. Old master, there's no need for this. Xiang Beifei leapt down from the tree and immediately helped Chang Furong to his feet. He respected Chang Furong from the bottom of his heart, even though he was only an early-stage martial artist who had just opened his meridians. Throughout Juzhou, if a person awakened to an SSR grade, it was an instant rise to fame. Regardless of the type of system the person had, as long as they carried the SSR grade label, they could definitely enter the high ranks of the league and become a member of it. If Chang Furong could truly overcome the mental barriers and act according to the system's tasks, becoming an evil accumulating martial artist, killing those who needed to be killed, assaulting women when dictated by tasks, with the protection of his SSR grade status, Chang Furong could easily commit these heinous acts without hindrance. 70 years would be enough for such a person to become one of the strongest masters in the league. But he refused. Even though his awakening was the SSR grade system that everyone envied and desired, even though this system could grant him a supreme status, he still refused to commit evil acts to complete his system's tasks. This was a man of conscience and principles. Xiang Beifei sighed silently. If the SSR grade evil accumulating system had awakened in Zhu Xinjue, Lu Xingdong, or Pangxi, whom Xiang Beifei had just slain, with their selfish and inhumane natures, they wouldn't have hesitated at all and would definitely have carried out evil deeds as dictated by the system. Killing and arson would not have made them blink an eye. These people didn't need to awaken the evil accumulating system. They were already brimming with evil. Yet the person who had awakened the evil accumulating system was always striving to be a good man. To Xiang Beifei, this was deeply ironic. How many people abandoned their principles just to complete their system's tasks? There were very few like Chang Furong who managed to maintain their principles. The League's obey the system at all costs policy was fundamentally flawed. Young Master Xiang, Chang Furong looked at Xiang Beifei with respect and pleading in his eyes. My name is Xiang Beifei. Old master can just call me by my name, Xiang Beifei said. But you! I am just a junior. No need for these formalities, Xiang Beifei replied. Chang Furong paused. After a long moment, he nodded silently. He knew the character of this young man. They had always been waiting for their leader, watching their leader grow step by step. How could they not understand what kind of person their leader was in everyday life? We really have no way out, Chang Furong said painfully. I just hope to see where the unrestrained path lies before I die, and I also hope to give myself a chance to choose again. He had lived for so many years and had never given up his beliefs. Seeking the unrestrained path was not only for himself but also to allow more people like him to live with more choices, instead of becoming puppets of the system against their nature. We need a leader, Su Yang said. Tang and the others also looked at Xiang Beifei with great hope. These people, like Chang Furong, had their own pasts, tied down by the system, deeply hating the harm it brought them. They might not have reached the point where they could abandon their own SSR systems like Chang Furong, but they also deeply rejected the system. It's not that I am unwilling. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment before saying, even if I agree to help you, one day I will leave Zhuozhou for the foreign wilderness, and then you will still lose a leader. Chang Furong and others were slightly startled. Why? Chang Furong asked urgently. Do you still not understand? Xiang Beifei looked into their faces, at their varied system interfaces, and slowly said, it's impossible to find unrestrained in Zhuozhou. Everyone looked at Xiang Beifei in astonishment. But everyone here has a system. It is precisely because everyone here has a system that you cannot escape the bonds of the system, Xiang Beifei said. A place bound by systems is almost impossible to break free from the systems. Since Xiang Beifei didn't belong here, he had no system. Su Yang fell silent. They vaguely understood what Xiang Beifei meant. The two seniors from the unrestrained with the heavenly connection realm had left Zhuozhou to go to the wilderness beyond. Their leader in their hearts, Xiang Tianqing, had also left Zhuozhou to explore that path in the wilderness beyond. This was by no means a coincidence. Perhaps they were indeed seeking that path in the wilderness beyond. If Xiang Beifei were to search for the unrestrained path, he would definitely leave Zhuozhou as well. But you already have an answer in mind, don't you? In those aged eyes full of hope, Chang Furong held a steadfast belief that had never wavered. He still believed that this young man, who could create countless miracles, was the benchmark of leading the unrestrained, capable of leading them all to achieve unrestrained. Xiang Beifei pursed his lips. He didn't know how to respond to the old man's words. If there was an answer, he himself, without a system, was already an answer. But he had no way to clearly explain how that answer came to be. After a long silence, Xiang Beifei finally spoke. I will help you find the answer. If possible, he would help the old man break free from the SSR-level evil accumulating system, allowing him to become his true self. Thank you. Thank you. I will follow all your orders. Chang Furong bowed deeply to Xiang Beifei. He knew Xiang Beifei had accepted their request, saving them from aimlessly wandering further. With Xiang Beifei's current capabilities to settle them, it was already a great comfort to them. No need. Xiang Beifei steadied him. He then turned to look at Pang Si, who had been refined by Xiaohe into a spiritual power crystal. His heart remained silent. High-level systems had grown accustomed to strengthening themselves by exploiting those of lower levels, with many even treating these lower-level individuals as livestock that could be slaughtered at will. For the sake of system tasks, they could annihilate their humanity. If anything touched their interests or affected their system tasks, exterminating those innocent lower-level awakeners didn't seem like a big deal. Lower-level awakeners had no voice in this world. Thus, this world has seen a group of people pursuing unrestrained. They dared to resist the system's arrangements, hoping to break the shackles of system hierarchy and the oppression of higher levels over lower levels. They were constantly searching for the path of unrestrained, the spirit of unrestrained. Xiang Beifei didn't even know why he should save them, nor why he had agreed to help them. But he had realized something over these 2 days. The true unrestrained was not the ghost mustache of remnant visage. It was not Chang Furong, Su Yang, Old Tang, and others either. It was he who had no system, who was truly unrestrained. Tens of thousands of beast pills were constantly bouncing around in the valley, leaving almost no room to pass through. It was simply impossible to rush past them. Xiang Beifei possessed the ability, learn by analogy. His learning capacity was tremendous, and in almost an instant, he discerned the pattern of these beast pills. When the beast pills hit the valley's stone walls, they would not react but would be bounced away instead. That is to say, the stones in the valley were also marked by them. To verify his conjecture, he broke off a piece of stone from the mouth of a cave and threw it out. Sure enough, a beast pill that struck the stone was immediately deflected. A light shone in Xiang Beifei's eyes. He quickly scraped off countless small stones from the valley walls, then coated the underside of his coat with breath soil and dashed out swiftly. Very soon, 70 to 80 beast pills charged toward Xiang Beifei. However, with breath soil covering him and constantly shifting, when a beast pill was about to hit him, the stones would be grabbed by the breath soil, blocking and deflecting the beast pills. Indeed, it didn't trigger any prohibitions. Xiang Beifei breathed a sigh of relief, quickly ran along the wall, and soon arrived at the cave where Xiaohe was. However, this cave also had a spiritual power prohibition, which was a kind of ripple-like formation. The strangest thing was that when Xiang Beifei walked into the cave, he vaguely felt as if his brick had established some connection with something. The black tentacles were very much like the ghost mustache of Remnant Visage. Because it was only a fleeting glance, Xiang Beifei could not be completely certain, and at that time, he had thoroughly examined the beast pill. However, the white unknown number 5 beast pill concealed its essence extremely well. Xiang Beifei had encountered this kind of beast pill several times before but never sensed the familiar presence of ghost whiskers. So he couldn't draw any conclusions directly at the moment. However, there was one thing that Xiang Beifei found very strange. He had fought with ghostly visage many times, and atop Mao Ho in the withered forest, Xiaohe had taken the plunge with a small handgun and dealt with countless ghostly visage. However, after he eliminated these peculiar desolate beasts, he never saw a single beast pill. They never left any beast pills behind, which was something Xiang Beifei had never understood. How could it not be scanned? Asked Liang Hao. However, the deconstructor had no effect on the jade slip. It couldn't analyze the specific process. Liang Hao checked the manufacturer of the deconstructor and said, "It shouldn't be. This is a deconstructor made by an SR-level formation master. It should be more than capable of deconstructing an array etched by an S-level awakener. If the formation pattern is too complex and the change frequency too fast, it's normal to not be able to analyze it. I guess it must be related to the variables after his era's overtime." Woo! The shadow-deficient gray ape let out a pained roar. Its body was still in the air, but when it turned its head, it saw a bloody wound on its right arm. The shadow-deficient gray ape was instantly startled. As far as it was concerned, it was supposed to be the one attacking, yet somehow the situation reversed. The Earth Dragon seemed to have anticipated its attack from this direction and managed to switch from defense to offense instantly. But quickly, a glow lit up on the shadow-deficient gray ape's body. A healing insect burrowed into its severed arm's wound, stemming the blood flow. However, the Earth Dragon's action enraged the shadow-deficient gray ape. Now greatly enhanced in strength, it would not be an exaggeration to say it was one of the strongest desolate beasts in the later stages of Meridian Opening. Yet it had its arm severed by a mere Earth Dragon. How could it tolerate this? Swish! A silvery light shone on the shadow-deficient gray ape's body, and it turned invisible, disappearing into thin air. Once invisible, there would be no shadow left on the ground. However, no sooner had the shadow-deficient gray ape turned invisible than a sandstorm whipped up from all directions for some reason. Being invisible only meant it could conceal itself, not that it could make its body disappear. The Earth Dragon's sense of smell was extremely keen, and combined with its spatial abilities from the Earth Dragon, it could even sense the fluctuations of space. At this moment, the shadow-deficient gray ape had no time to think. Its powerful combat instincts let it quickly ride a sound wave to disappear from the spot, avoiding the gaping maw. It roared again, and a sonic wave swept out. This time the distance was much closer. It could move behind the Earth Dragon at an even greater speed, using its sharp, knife-like legs to sever the bothersome tongue. It could perfectly control the warping of space around itself. But even so, he discovered that there were 3 beast pills whose names he could not call out. What surprised him most was one particular beast pill, which was white and appeared plain and unremarkable. Yet Xiang Beifei was all too familiar with it. It was precisely the beast pill he had been investigating recently, the one he had extracted from the one-armed crab, the old woman, Hua Jiuyu, and Gao Zhuo's hearts. Indeed, Xiang Beifei was now certain in his heart. Amongst the 1,200 types of beast pills resembling this plain white one in color, shape, and even size, there were quite a few, but beast pills from different desolate beasts exude different energies. Other white beast pills could be distinguished, but if one was not familiar with this one, they would have no way of knowing what it was. At most, they would treat it as a common qi-controlling period beast pill and wouldn't think to try and do anything with it. It seems I can only try this beast pill. He had come here specifically to investigate the connection between the beast pill and the unrestrained. Now that he was disadvantaged compared to the other 3, to secure this position, he had to prove he possessed abilities surpassing the other 3. Speaking of which, there's also Su Yang. Xiang Beifei finally remembered his teacher from the Desolate Beast Dissection class. Su Yang was not a simple man. He had been keeping a low profile as a schoolteacher, so inconspicuous that Xiang Beifei hadn't had the chance to approach him. Initially, this man was also an employee at Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company, had worked there for a long time, and then came to teach at the school, even probing Xiang Beifei once. But this time he decided not to startle the snake in the grass. So far, Su Yang had acted very normally. If he were unrestrained, he surely had his own means of keeping secrets. Is that so? Go. Dissect him. Elder Luo didn't hesitate at all, and immediately took Gao Zhuo to the school's Desolate Beast Dissection Room. This classroom was originally designed for dissecting various desolate beasts, complete with all kinds of dissection tools. Of course, this was probably the first time it was used to dissect a living human. Scalpel Control Ability 9,999. Medical Mastery 9,999. Elder Luo swiftly applied all his knowledge about dissection to the system upgrade. If the heart is removed, we'll need to use an extracorporeal circulation machine and a series of equipment to keep him alive for a while. But what if the heart is damaged and he can't survive? Xiang Beifei inquired. Elder Luo put on a mask, picked up a gleaming scalpel and said, "I'll just make a small incision quickly. Do you have healing abilities? Just heal it quickly after I remove it." "That I can do. But what if there's an issue with the heart after the beast pill is gone?" Xiang Beifei said. Elder Luo, without a moment's thought, responded, "Then we'll transplant the cultivated pig heart from over there." Opening the chest, expanding the chest, Elder Luo skillfully cut open Gao Zhuo. With his capabilities, he didn't even bother with an X-ray or MRI, doing all the preoperative preparations on his own, a one-man job. In this regard, even Xiang Beifei felt inferior, admitting how powerful Elder Luo truly was. After the incision, Gao Zhuo's heart was still beating. As Xiang Beifei helped to stop the bleeding, Elder Luo exclaimed softly, "Strange. This heart is bigger than normal. It's precisely because it's too big that I'm curious. It looks more like it's been expanded, or rather, its potential has been overdrafted ahead of time." Xiang Beifei had already seen plenty of such hearts. "That's the case, but we need to rely on. For a short period, He Kaiwei and Zhu Yiji shouldn't cause trouble. It's time for the next step." Xiang Beifei didn't have the power to kill He Kaiwei yet, but that wasn't a problem. It was actually better for him that He Kaiwei remained alive, as there were still a lot of uniqueness values to be harvested. Whatever he exchanged for, Xiaohei took away without negotiation. If he didn't exchange, then his system was nothing but a decoration, only there for admiration, an unreachable tantalization that would make He Kaiwei even more frustrated. The order at the school was restored, and Elder Luo took over Liangzhou University with swift and decisive measures, legitimately leaving no one daring to object. After everything was settled, Xiang Beifei then had to consider finding Ziho. However, at that moment, he suddenly sensed something was off, turned his head, and discovered that, unbeknownst to him, Hua Jue had already stood up. She was still alive. You really don't know how to be tender towards women. Hua Jue was still laughing maniacally. Without giving Xiang Beifei time to react, she had already clutched the golden cage at her waist. The golden cage was very strange, instantly transporting Hua Jue away into thin air. Next time remember to talk about both sides when having a heart-to-heart chat. The excited voice of Hua Jue echoed in his ears, but her figure had already disappeared, leaving no trace behind. Xiang Beifei stood up, frowning slightly. Talk about both sides in a heart-to-heart chat? Could it be Hua Jue this person had more than one heart? That's unexpected. This was something Xiang Beifei had not anticipated. Normal people have only one heart, and he hadn't considered the possibility of someone having two. But he had to admit that the woman, Hua Jue, was very cunning, feigning death when she couldn't win and then using the information gap between her and Xiang Beifei to escape. Xiang Beifei remained calm and did not pursue. The golden cage was extraordinary, not a system item, and its transmission ability was even more powerful, making it impossible to sense her presence anymore, let alone catch up. If he encountered her again, he would have to crush her body to check for certain. Xiang Beifei furrowed his brows slightly. Was she wary of his spiritual power flame? As if his flame was her nemesis? What was going on? It was known that Xiang Beifei's spiritual power flame didn't have any special restraining effect on martial artists. It was a simple and brute fist flame. If the opponent was weaker, they would be gone with one punch, but if they were of equal strength, they could definitely block it. At most, he could use the ability to turn the tables by igniting the opponent's spiritual power, but there was no absolute restraining effect. The only things that could fear his fist flame were desolate beasts. Since last year, every desolate beast Xiang Beifei encountered was subdued by his fist flame's pressure, weakening their combat power. His spiritual power flame was the bane of desolate beasts. So what was the deal with Hua Jue? Actually, before coming here, the representatives of the Idol faction on the assembly had proposed to join forces to deal with Luo Yunxian. With so many people, taking down Luo Yunxian together seemed feasible in their view. However, among them, several members of the Leisure faction firmly opposed this plan, with a simple reason. Based on the video, Luo Yunxian didn't even give his all when beating Zhu Yiji. If there was a real fight, even if they could take Luo Yunxian down together, at least a few of them would be dismembered by Luo Yunxian. After hanging up the phone, now with Xiao Sheng by his side, he could relax a bit, as Xiao Sheng was also a god-refining phase expert. If there were any unforeseen events, he could handle them. He continued to inquire some people, including Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng, and even specifically asked Sun Hushuan, who used to be his father's direct boss. However, strangely enough, these people all had photos of Xiang Tianxing, various group pictures, but there were no videos of Xiang Tianxing. It was as though all videos related to Xiang Tianxing no longer existed. This was very mysterious. How about her? He then opened his own file in the Zhuzhou archive. There was no shortage of information about him. When he had gone there in January, he was already shining brightly as the rising star of the new students' competition, and the high-definition video of him subduing Ho Chenggu was in the archive. Xiaohei, can you erase the video images about me? Xiang Beifei asked. Xiaohei pondered for a moment, touched the video with its little paw, and nodded. Woof woof. Not this kind of data that we've copied, but the data from the main archive room of Zhuzhou, the one guarded by God, Xiang Beifei clarified. The matter at Liangzhou University still had not been completely resolved, as there were many other things waiting for him. Zhu Yiji and He Kaiwei had suffered such a loss. It was unlikely they would let it go easily. As UR-level awakeners, the Alliance would not truly punish them, at most issuing a warning or internal disciplinary action, but it would be insignificant. Things would remain the same. Xiang Beifei was not about to let them off so easily. Xiaohei, have you finished? Xiang Beifei asked. Xiaohei was seated in front of the computer, tapping wildly on the keyboard with its two paws, working on the video in the computer. That was the video from the last meeting room incident Xiang Beifei had recorded. To cover up what had happened that day and to prevent it from affecting his reputation, Chao Pei, the principal, had used the school's powerful UR-level confidentiality measures to restrict all the senior leaders of the school from revealing the information. But Xiang Beifei had ignored his methods. A powerful aura condensed into a sharp energy on his body, falling silently onto Ma Cainian. Upon seeing Xiang Beifei, Ma Cainian's heart trembled, intimidated by Xiang Beifei's terrifying presence. Xiang Beifei was rumored to be capable of killing a meridian-opening late-stage one-armed crab with a single punch. His presence here was no joking matter. Ma Cainian steadied himself, cursing inwardly. He was, after all, an official of the Alliance. No matter how famous this kid was, he was just a civilian without power or influence. It should be him who was afraid. Xiang Beifei, such an important figure, Ma Cainian said with a sarcastic tone. Xiang Beifei didn't speak, merely glanced indifferently, and then walked towards Kong Daming, asking, "I saw the phone message just now. What happened to my grandfather?" "I don't know. He seemed to be feeling unwell just now, so I helped him upstairs to rest." "He's up there now," Kong Daming said. "Got it. I'll go up and see him." Xiang Beifei, without another word, headed for the stairs. However, Ma Cainian was irked to see himself being ignored. "Humph. Not even basic manners." "Scram," Xiang Beifei said directly. "Yes." Ma Cainian's brain zapped. Then, as if he couldn't help himself, he lay down and really rolled out from the scene. "Ha!" Kong Daming and Zhang Xiang watched in shock as Ma Cainian rolled away, both completely stunned for a moment. Ma Cainian actually rolled away just like that? The sudden turn of events caught them off guard. Why bother patrolling the archive room? Who has nothing better to do than to sneak into the archives to steal things? Honestly, we could probably skip a whole year, and it wouldn't matter, Zhou Guan said, lounging and resting his head on his arms as he followed Sun Zhong. He wasn't too interested in the job and grumbled all the way. After reaching the third floor, Sun Zhong patrolled down the line of rooms. "You've patrolled the N-level talent review department. Patrol points +2. You've patrolled the N-level talent dispatch department. Patrol points +2. Sun Zhong made an extra round in the empty room, then pressed a button on the wall to make sure the alarm was functioning before leaving the room. "You've patrolled the main archive room entrance. Patrol points +5. Just then, Zhang Xing thought of something, quickly took out his phone to video call his son, and then asked, "Son, you said you've seen Xiang Beifei before. Look at this person. Is this Xiang Beifei?" During the initial competition for new students, although students from major elite schools had not been present, the event had been broadcast live. Anyone with sight could recognize him. Although Zhang Xing's son was from Jizhou University, he had seen Xiang Beifei as well, and the instant he saw Xiang Beifei, he excitedly said, "It's him! That's him! The genius who trampled the SSR from Qingzhou University underfoot. Dad, you actually met him? Oh my God! That was the legendary genius. You are really that Xiang Beifei." Zhang Xing was also stunned. His son, who had returned home for the holidays, had also mentioned the freshman competition before, and he had been very impressed with Xiang Beifei. Little did he expect to encounter such a great genius today by chance. A moment later, he quickly recovered, excitedly saying, "He is indeed Xiang Beifei. My son is at Jizhou University, and he saw him the last time." Xiang Beifei temporarily put that matter aside and asked, "By the way, Uncle Kong, is there a house for rent nearby? We are thinking of moving over." "A house? Yes, there is. You should have moved here sooner. The old master has always been talking about saving up money for you to do missions and whatnot." "Why the sudden change of mind?" Kong Daming inquired. "Xiaofei has grown up. The house is too shabby. He'll struggle to find a wife," Xiang Qingde said soberly. "Ha ha ha, that's true," Kong Daming nodded. But Lu Hong disagreed. "Not at all. If there's true affection, Who would care about the house? Still, we should live in a nicer place. The old house was a bit too dark, Kong Daming said. Leave this to me. I remember there was a family who moved out on my floor, just 2 door numbers away from my place, diagonally opposite. Moving here would be good. We'd be able to look after each other better. So when is Uncle Kong's restaurant planning to reopen? Xiang Beifei inquired further. How the desolate beast one-armed crab appeared was still under investigation, and a person Xiang Beifei currently suspected had not yet been identified. Xiao Sheng, the faux and level store clerk who was actually an SR. The day the desolate beast appeared, who knows where he had run off to. Xiang Beifei wanted to see if Xiao Sheng would return to work. The day after tomorrow, I suppose. The employees have been asking as well, Kong Daming said. Speaking of which, I need to contact those employees. It's been closed for so long. Then I'll go to the wholesale market tomorrow. We've been out of ingredients, and I need to renegotiate with them, Xiang Qingda said. Kong Daming quickly responded, No need, Uncle Xiang, you rest. I'll go. It's best. We've rested for so long. It's good to get active. I'm familiar with that place anyway. There's a lot to do for the reopening. Many guests have made reservations, waiting to support us once we reopen. You'll be busy then. I can go tomorrow, Xiang Qingda insisted, waving his hand. Kong Daming couldn't argue further and had to agree. When Xiang Beifei got home, he made a point to talk in front of the living room security camera with his grandfather to clarify the reasons for moving. He said directly that he was now capable of earning money and didn't want to stay in their old place anymore. The martial artist in the Meridian opening stage made earning a living for himself quite simple. People monitoring his family, as long as they weren't foolish, would surely know Xiang Beifei's current cultivation realm after making inquiries at the school, so no one would suspect this excuse. With that, the other party should have moved to the new house by now. Xiang Beifei wanted to see who would dare to install surveillance under his watch. Having said that, Xiaohei went ahead and blocked the camera again. The grandfather and grandson packed everything together in the evening, and truth be told, they had quite a lot of stuff at home. We should call for a truck. No elevator, we'll carry things down together later. Xiang Qingda pondered how to make moving easier. I can handle the stuff myself. Grandpa doesn't need to worry. Just rest, Xiang Beifei said. How can that be? How can you move so much by yourself? Grandpa can still handle it. I'll help you carry. Xiang Qingda worried that his grandson would exhaust himself, as moving was indeed hard labor. Xiang Beifei found it both funny and frustrating. Grandpa, why do I always feel you forget again that I'm a martial artist? So what if you're a martial artist? Many martial artists still hire people for moving, Xiang Qingda said. Xiang Beifei stomped his foot again, and all the packed boxes floated up, hovering midair, lighter than a feather. He reduced the weight of the objects and then used his spiritual power to pull them up. Xiang Qingda watched all this in amazement. I had no idea you had this ability. Xiang Beifei realized he rarely talked about his abilities with his grandfather. He smiled, set everything down, and then glanced at the ceiling camera again, saying, Don't worry. I'll handle everything from now on. Grandpa just needs to rest. Xiang Qingda was stunned for a moment, staring blankly at Xiang Beifei. Once upon a time, he was always carefully protecting his grandson, guarding his self-esteem, telling him to be positive, hoping he wouldn't give up on himself. But since awakening his system, the grandson seemed like a different person, becoming diligent and cheerful, now a martial artist in the Meridian opening stage with the ability to protect himself. Took a while for Xiang Qingda to snap back to reality. He smiled and said, The awakening system is indeed a good thing. It was then he suddenly felt his age and realized he needed his grandson's protection. This was good too. Seeing his grandson so sensible made him happy. Moving wasn't hard. Ordinary N-level awakeners who didn't have a corresponding space system would have to hire moving companies, rent trucks, and spend a good amount of money. Xiang Beifei didn't need to. Xiaohei could create bubbles for that. Xiaofei is a big star now. In the future, we'll all depend on you. Kong Daming joked. Is being a star tiring? I heard you have to shoot various films every day, Lu Jiwei said curiously. That's not possible. Xiaofei needs to cultivate, Lu Hong stated seriously. Unknowingly, he had already switched from calling him Beifei to Xiaofei in his mind, still perceiving Xiang Beifei primarily as a martial artist who should focus on cultivating. Chen Xiuqin walked in from outside, laughing. I won't lie. These past few days, I've received countless calls from talent agencies. They know I know Xiaofei, and they keep asking about business activities, offering lots of money to see if Xiaofei would sign with their company. What did you say? Kong Daming asked. Of course, I said I'd consider it. How could I decide on such a thing myself? I still need to ask Xiaofei's opinion, Chen Xiuqin chuckled. She hadn't agreed to anything outright, but also hadn't definitively refused, always keeping an option open for Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei thought for a moment and said, I really need to cultivate, so I don't have time for movies or commercials. But when I have time, I could start a column specifically teaching everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so that people won't panic when they encounter such situations. He needed to leverage this identity to properly guide everyone. Lu Hong's eyes brightened, nodding. Yes, many civilians living in inland cities have a shallow understanding of desolate beasts. Most lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is good. Powerful desolate beasts were common sights for martial artists, but civilians rarely encountered them. Xiang Beifei, being a martial artist, promoting a martial artist's activities was only natural. That's excellent. I'll help you promote it. As a public figure, it's essential to specialize in one area, and since you're a martial artist, you must proceed in that way, Chen Xiuqin stated. Being somewhat of an entertainment industry worker, she was well experienced with how marketing should be done. As Xiang Beifei's #1 fan, Chen Xiuqin was more than willing to help him. This matter was settled, and Xiang Beifei didn't need to do anything. After school started next semester, when he went to do tasks in the outer domain wilderness, he could just casually shoot a few videos. It was a simple matter. But speaking of which, does she really think she can manipulate my reputation at will? The last person who tried to capitalize on Xiang Beifei's fame had been dealt with by him. This time, without consulting him, they decided on their own to make him the figurehead, clearly intending to push him into the spotlight. The reason the Alliance wanted to expose such a talent was quite obvious. The main reason was that Xiang Beifei was mentored by Elder Luo. Elder Luo and the Alliance weren't on good terms. The people in the Alliance were even apprehensive of Elder Luo, as they couldn't suppress such an SR-level awakener who wouldn't obey the Alliance's orders. They were worried about Elder Luo cultivating his own power base at Liangzhou University. With the emergence of a talent like Xiang Beifei, it brought them even greater threats. Therefore, they chose to target Xiang Beifei. Once exposed, it's hard for anyone to remain low profile. Wherever they go, they will attract attention. By exposing Xiang Beifei in such a manner, they were forcibly aligning him with the Alliance, letting him be monitored by everyone in Jiuzhou. This way, Xiang Beifei had almost no way to covertly oppose the Alliance. Every move he made was under the watch of the Alliance. Later on, whatever arrangements the Alliance made, Xiang Beifei would have to comply. In the eyes of the Alliance, Xiang Beifei would become a pawn to restrain Elder Luo, isolating Elder Luo in a special way, monitoring him and weakening his influence. But Mu Yiqing wouldn't really think that he would obediently comply and act according to her ideas, would she? To become a benchmark for N-level awakeners means that the initiative is in my hands now. Xiang Beifei. His name, was it the way out of the withered forest? Coincidence? Or? Xiang Beifei felt very unreal. His long-lost father, who had never met him, named him when he was still an infant. How could he be so sure he would encounter Yu Meng? Did he just casually settle on his son's name? Can he take naming a bit more seriously? This SSR-level system awakener had the ability to set rules. Disciplined individuals or matters around her would increase her rule value, and she could also increase her rule value by acting according to the established rules. In essence, as long as there were rules in a place, she could become stronger. Those who didn't follow the rules had nowhere to hide in front of her. Xiang Beifei was looking at Mu Yiqing's system log, which listed a bunch of issues about her handling of rules, one of which read, "You devised the Jojo scheme on SR talent selection, which has been approved by Zhu Yiji, the chief of the alliance planning, and published as a rule. Currently, 2,546 people comply with this rule, your rule value plus 2,546. The planning department of the Jojo Alliance was responsible for devising and revising the systems to manage all aspects of the alliance, planning the development of Jojo. Simply put, UR level Zhu Yiji was there to set the rules." Xiang Beifei had only just learned of Zhu Yiji's position within the alliance. Those who set the rules lead in breaking them. If used properly, during battle, it could definitely dodge many attacks. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but think. As long as his spiritual power touched the opponent, it was very easy to influence them, causing them to misjudge his direction. If they couldn't correct it in time, it would be nearly impossible for them to hit Xiang Beifei. Of course, all of this was predicated on the assumption that his spiritual power had come into contact with them. If the opponent's strength were higher, they could easily break free. But even just 1 second of influence would allow Xiang Beifei to do a lot of things. This ability should be the one respected as a criterion. Respected as a criterion, treating a certain doctrine or conduct as one standard. Here, Era was forced to take Xiang Beifei's standards as its own. To hit Xiang Beifei, it had to follow his rules. Otherwise, it would never land a blow on him. Can this ability be further developed? Xiang Beifei couldn't help but continue to ponder. Respected as a criterion, taking himself as the standard. Could he also set other standards? For instance, making others follow the standards he had set? Because the Spirit Gathering book didn't provide much detail about this ability, Xiang Beifei had to explore on his own. The wooden Kirin wasn't a human, so he planned to find a powerful person to test it. Why not see if Yi Changfeng is available someday? The first person that popped into Xiang Beifei's mind was the enthusiastic Mr. Yi. After all, whenever he usually wanted to verify his abilities or ascertain his cultivation level, he was accustomed to seeking out Yi Changfeng. However, Yi Changfeng was currently busy helping Elder Luo handle the beast eggs. Xiang Beifei temporarily shelved his exploration of this power. In any case, he had to first increase his cultivation to the orifice transforming stage. Once he reached the orifice transforming stage, Xiang Beifei was prepared to venture into the extraterritorial desolate lands. To accelerate this process, Xiang Beifei had already used the spiritual power crystals of the orifice transforming stage to nourish his soul. His cultivation had been constant. The cultivation of his soul was even faster than meridian opening. Meridian opening was fundamental. It involved creating pathways through meridians in various parts of the body. Once the foundation was solid, the soul could directly use the spiritual power crystals. Xiang Beifei's soul nourishment was extremely luxurious. He used the spiritual power crystals of the orifice transforming stage, which led to a rapid warming of his soul. Now, his soul was no longer just a transparent mass, but rather looked incredibly solid. Squeeze it and it was quite elastic. Next, he considered the issue of orifice transforming. He didn't have a system, so he couldn't seek advice on how to transform orifices. But he had already thoroughly consulted Elder Luo previously. Orifice transforming, to put it simply, was to open orifices in the soul. The soul at the God-refining stage could not fully leave the body without becoming very vulnerable. However, once orifices were opened in the soul, it underwent a qualitative change and became an orifice soul. An orifice soul could still possess great combat strength even after leaving the body, making the body an expendable shell. It didn't matter much if the body was injured, as long as the orifice soul remained intact. Of course, comparing him to orifice-transforming masters like Qin Hongyi was inappropriate. Strictly speaking, the cultivation methods of desolate beasts and humans were different, and with Qin Hongyi being half-human, half-beast, it was even more complex. The soul was originally a type of spiritual body. To be able to carry a person's consciousness, it needed to open orifices. Humans have 7 orifices: for eating, listening, seeing, and breathing. Opening orifices in the eyes connects to the liver, in the ears connects to the heart, in the mouth connects to the spleen, in the nose connects to the lungs, and in the lower orifices connects to the kidneys. This process seems simple but is actually very difficult. Even ordinary SSR-ranked awakeners, having reached the advanced stages of God refining, would have to put forth much effort to open their orifices. To open one orifice in 1 year was considered extremely fast. 7 orifices 7 years was the norm. If SSR-ranked awakeners struggled so, not to mention SR-ranked or other S-ranked ones. Being able to reach the orifice-transforming stage before the age of 40 was a mark of a genius. This process also required consuming a lot of spiritual power crystals. Overall, it's incredibly difficult. 1 orifice in 1 year. This process does seem a bit challenging. Xiang Beifei mused, but he didn't dwell on it for long. Following the guidance of Elder Luo, he started to work on opening orifices in his soul. He only hoped the speed of his orifice opening could be a little faster. While Xiang Beifei was cultivating, Chang Furong and that unrestrained lot had already collaborated with the Su people. This was a very strange occurrence. The Su people and the unrestrained had always been mortal enemies. The Su alliance was established to pursue the unrestrained, and they had never imagined that one day these two completely different forces would come together. However, the collaboration between the two sides was quite in sync, and they achieved significant results. Chang Furong had a set of breeding data for the ghost whiskers of remnant visages beast eggs. He knew a lot about desolate beasts because he had long seen through the plans of the ghostly visage. Hence, he had been analyzing which type of desolate beast is most suitable to be hatched in which location. The water-absorbing rainbow beast, capable of severing water supplies, is most likely to be found in the water treatment plants. Such desolate beasts could enter thousands of households through the water pipes, and once they attack people, they have enough power to drain all the water from one's body. The Meng Huai, which can kill people in their dreams, is most likely to appear in urban residential centers. Once the night falls silent, and residents fall into deep sleep, encountering a Meng Huai could mean that those without cultivation might never wake up again. The Ruolai, capable of killing through sound waves, is most likely to be found at stadiums where concerts are frequently held. When those so-called pop stars open their mouths, and the sound waves roll in, Ruolai could instantly wipe out all the audience. By utilizing the characteristics of desolate beasts, Chang Furong searched for the most suitable places in Jiuzhou for their eggs to hatch. Some locations' beast eggs had already been cleared by them, but Jiuzhou is too vast. 9 states with all kinds of situations, just relying on a few of them is far from enough. This undoubtedly saved Elder Luo a lot of energy. He had Yi Changfeng assist Chang Furong in determining the locations, then arranged for the Su people to conduct inspections. With the Su people's involvement, the whole process would be expedited. In the woods of Liangzhou University, Elder Luo, Professor Guo, and Yi Changfeng were discussing the current situation. Those people in the alliance are still not admitting the fact that beast eggs have invaded. If we don't inform the public and remind everyone, the consequences will be severe, said Yi Changfeng. These people have really become too complacent now, refusing to believe even the evidence presented before them. Professor Guo was very angry about the attitude of those higher-ups in the alliance. Not everyone can accept the fact of desolate beasts invading Jiuzhou. Especially for those usually lofty alliance leaders, it's even more unacceptable. Because Jiuzhou is like a strong barrier, keeping all dangers outside. As long as the Jiuzhou continent is free from the ravaging of desolate beasts, these high-level system awakeners can live worry-free, enjoying privileges and the conveniences brought about by high-level awakeners. Those SSR and UR level awakeners must all hold high positions. If there's anything to be done, they only need to order lower-level awakeners to take action. Jiuzhou's borders don't need their personal protection, nor do they need to explore the desolate wilderness beyond the borders and reclaim land stolen by desolate beasts, or survey the geography of the external wilderness, hunt desolate beasts for energy supply to ensure Jiuzhou's stable life, etc. None of this requires the SSR and UR level awakeners to take action. Naturally, there are those at the bottom to do it for them. These SSR and UR level awakeners on a daily basis, just by relying on their system status, can practically call the wind and summon the rain in Jiuzhou. Even an SSR-level literary Dao adept who doesn't know the first thing about desolate beasts could manage a bunch of martial Daoists who need to fight against desolate beasts. Zhuzhou is like the backyard of these high-level system awakeners. Therefore, these high-level leaders who are warming their seats need Zhuzhou to be stable. And once Zhuzhou is invaded by desolate beasts, it means that the whole of Zhuzhou's life will fall into chaos. The various desolate beasts all have very strange abilities, which ordinary citizens who are low-level awakeners cannot possibly resist. Many martial artists focus their energy on the external wilderness. Thus, dealing with the internal issues falls to these high-level individuals. But most SSR-level high-level awakeners, like the former dean of Martial Arts College of Liangzhou University, SSR-level literary Dao adept Wei Tong, don't even know what desolate beasts look like, let alone how to deal with them. If Zhuzhou is attacked by desolate beasts, those high-level awakeners accustomed to luxury will immediately show their true colors, become disorganized, and most of the incapable high-level awakeners will be utterly ineffective, leaving more Zhuzhou citizens to realize what kind of good-for-nothing leaders they have been under. So every high-level awakener in the Alliance cannot accept the idea of desolate beasts attacking from within Zhuzhou. They refuse to believe the news brought by Elder Luo. Up to now, there have just been 2 incidents of desolate beasts causing trouble, which is not convincing enough, said Elder Luo. He spoke calmly, but Yi Changfeng could feel the anger in Elder Luo's tone. The meeting on the Alliance side did not go smoothly, because there have only been 2 hatching incidents of desolate beasts attacking Zhuzhou so far. The one-armed crab and the void-devouring insect. Those in the Alliance treated these 2 incidents as accidents, simply saying that unrestrained was purposely causing chaos, and that it was more important to deal with the remaining unrestrained. And chasing down unrestrained is the Su Alliance's task. So they shift the blame towards Elder Luo, not taking any responsibility themselves, nor cooperating. This angered Elder Luo. It was clear that Elder Luo had a fight with that group of strawbags, but Elder Luo was also without options. As long as the high and mighty strawbags do not believe, even if Elder Luo resorts to force to compel them to investigate, those good-for-nothings will not do it wholeheartedly. Only the Pioneering Department and the Beast Tide Defense Department supported Elder Luo. Other departments were just passing the buck. But powers in the Alliance's departments are intricate and intertwined, with nearly every heavenly connection realm expert having their own people embedded into other departments as their eyes and ears. So even as the heads of the Pioneering Department, Sun Hushuan, and the Beast Tide Defense Department, Professor Gua, stand with Elder Luo, it's difficult to carry out the operation to clear the beast eggs. When they issue orders, the subordinates still do the bare minimum, not bothering to search earnestly, just claiming they found nothing. As long as there isn't a 3rd or 4th large-scale hatching of desolate beasts attacking the cities, these people won't take it seriously. His name, is it the way to leave the withered forest? A coincidence? Or, Xiang Beifei felt it was very unreal. His father, who had been missing for a long time and whom he had never met, named him when he was still an infant. How could he be so certain that he would encounter Yu Meng? Did he just casually decide on his son's name? Can you take naming a bit more seriously? This SSR grade system awakener possesses the ability to make rules. Any person or matter around her that adheres to the rules increases her system value, and she also adds to her system value by dealing with things according to established rules. In short, as long as there are rules in place, she gets stronger. If someone does not obey the rules in her presence, they have no place to hide. Xiang Beifei was reading Mu Yiqing's system log, which listed a bunch of things she had dealt with concerning rules, and among them was, "You have formulated the Zhuzhou SR talent selection and planning system. The plan has been approved by the Union Planning Minister, Zhu Yiji, and enacted as a rule. Currently, 2,546 people are abiding by this rule. Your rule value plus 2,546. The planning department of the Zhuzhou Alliance is responsible for creating and revising the systems of the Alliance to manage all aspects and plan the development of Zhuzhou. In simple terms, as a UR-grade individual, Zhu Yiji is there to set the rules." Only now did Xiang Beifei realize Zhu Yiji's position in the Alliance. Those who set the rules, leading the way in breaking them, and fishing their own grandchildren out of jail, it really is something. With that in mind, Mu Yiqing must also be one of Zhu Yiji's people. It's just unclear whether she participated in the scheme to have Zhu Xinjue leave jail with a changed appearance, supposedly sentenced to death. Xiang Beifei soon noticed a system log entry from September. You have revised the regulations for SR Awakener's bail applications. This rule currently applies to only one person, your rule value +1. Looks like there's no escape. Xiang Beifei slightly frowned. Her system, for any rule she revises, will essentially add to her rule value for as many people as are bound by it. For example, she had a hand in revising a rule regarding the recruitment of students in Jiuzhou. This system directly affected 5 million college entrance examinees in Jiuzhou, and her system value instantly increased by 5 million. Logically, Mu Yiqing with this system should be adhering to all sorts of rules. But Xiang Beifei quickly thought of another point. What is a rule? A rule is simply something set by people. Since it's set by people, it can naturally be modified by people. Rules that have been modified are still rules and still meet her system's criteria. So, as long as she holds a high position within the alliance, she can control the rules herself. So-called adherence to rules for her word-spirit rule system, to grow stronger essentially becomes acting at will. Otherwise, why would an SSR grade system be so powerful? Our two schools supported each other in the withered forest and jointly avoided the danger, Xiang Beifei said before turning to Ren Zhonghai and adding, on the way, we also encountered a student from Qingzhou University. Feel free to ask him. Yes, we almost got wiped out, but it was Xiang Beifei and his team that saved me. Later, we encountered teams from other schools, warning them of the danger, but they did not trust us. Only the team from Yongzhou University followed. Tang He recounted the events in detail, including how they had a conflict with Yenzhou University, how they met Shi Renmei, saw the ghost mustache of remnant visage, were pursued, and were saved by the Liangzhou team. After listening, Ren Zhonghai's brows deeply furrowed. But with Tang He stepping forward, he could only let it be. After all, Tang He is a student from Qingzhou University, so it was both reasonable and appropriate for Xiang Beifei to. All 11 of you. Xiang Beifei did not ask further. He just looked at Tang He thoughtfully. Tang He is a normal person. Xiang Beifei would not be mistaken on this point because Tang He had a system interface that was rapidly changing. His Pejunai system is a reconnaissance type of system, and it can also quickly spot the opponent's weakness and crush the opponent by targeting it. His system log currently displays everything as normal, a fact that does not escape Xiang Beifei's eyes. But what made Xiang Beifei curious was, this guy, for some reason, seemed to bear a faint trace of the ghostly visage's aura. Was it because he had been attacked by the ghostly visage that there was some remnant of its presence? As soon as several people appeared, the atmosphere suddenly felt wrong. Chun Baiwen, Yu Hongba, Zhu Xinjue. It was the team from Yenzhou University. Unexpectedly, they also emerged here. Zhu Xinjue spotted Xiang Beifei among the crowd and his heart skipped a beat. Then hatred flashed through his eyes, but he quickly reined it in. For the time being, their alliance with Qingzhou University had shattered, leaving them no way to join forces against Xiang Beifei. When Yu Hongba and Chun Baiwen saw Xiang Beifei, they were also slightly taken aback. The two couldn't help but exchange looks, because just yesterday, they were thinking of joining forces with Qingzhou University to deal with Xiang Beifei, but then they couldn't find him and instead Ho Qingguo from Qingzhou University died. They had not expected to encounter Xiang Beifei in this place. Don't panic. He probably doesn't know about yesterday's incident. Chun Baiwen exchanged a look with Yu Hongba and the others. Without needing to speak, they understood each other. Yu Hongba composed himself and then said, Xiang Beifei, I've long admired your reputation. I am Yu Hongba, the team leader from Yenzhou University. Chun Baiwen also nodded slightly but remained silent. Xiang Beifei, appearing thoughtful, gazed at the people from Yenzhou University. His eyes swept over them. Then he glanced at Zhu Xinjue and after a moment said, Why are you here? After we entered this withered forest, we realized something was wrong and then ran up to this mountain. The situation outside is terrible. Did you also encounter those strange tree people just now? Yu Hongba asked. That's right, Xiang Beifei said, not revealing any emotion. Are you all right? Yu Hongba asked. Not too bad. Xiang Beifei glanced at Tang He behind him. Tang He was from Qingzhou University, and their team's situation seemed very dire. When Tang He saw Yu Hongba and the others, he too showed a look of shock. He hadn't expected to encounter people from Yenzhou University, especially given that their Ho Chengguo from Qingzhou University had died at the hands of Zhu Pengfei. However, he dared not say much now, being only a late-stage Qi-controlling SR-level awakener, without any teammates nearby. He was no match for these people from Yenzhou University. How long have you been in this withered forest? Xiang Beifei asked. We came here last night, Yu Hongba said. Last night? You've been here nearly a day. Xiang Beifei seemed surprised. Yes, we've been here since last night. Yu Hongba no longer harbored any intention of confronting Xiang Beifei. Instead, he even felt a slight desire to join forces with Xiang Beifei, because their team was also in a very difficult position. This place was indeed too strange. They were trapped, unable to find a way out. Seeing Xiang Beifei, a hope rose in Yu Hongba's heart. Xiang Beifei was very strong. Perhaps he had some way out. So you're all okay? Xiang Beifei asked. We had one casualty, Yu Hongba said with a heavy tone. Only 4 members remained in their team. Have you been on this mountain since last night till now? Xiang Beifei asked. Not exactly. At first, we were walking in the withered forest, but then suddenly it got dark and things didn't seem right, so we ran up to the mountain, realizing that those tree people wouldn't dare to come up, which gave us a breather. We weren't initially on this mountain. It was another one. So you are that N-level awakener, Xiang Beifei? Chun Baiwen's expression was not good as he faced Xiang Beifei. He hadn't really wanted to come up because the earlier Ho Chengguo had lost inexplicably, and he hadn't even seen how Ho Chengguo lost. If he too were to lose to an N-level student, his reputation could be utterly destroyed. However, if he did not come forward to challenge Xiang Beifei, he would be even more ridiculed as a coward, proving indirectly that he, a lofty SSR-level awakener, was afraid of an N-level. Xiang Beifei essentially would win without fighting. After all, like Ho Chengguo, he dismissed the idea of joining Liangzhou University for recruiting N-level students, and was convinced by other universities not to go to Liangzhou University. Having chosen to forsake Liangzhou University initially, Chun Baiwen, an arrogant SSR, needed to prove himself. Xiang Beifei just looked at Zhu Xinjue calmly, but a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. He had not killed this person the last time and clearly intended to kill him now, so he must kill Zhu Xinjue this time. However, just as he spoke, he felt his knees bend, and with a snap, he suddenly knelt before Xiang Beifei. Zhu Xinjue and the others were also startled. Ho Chengguo, what are you doing? Chun Baiwen asked in surprise. Ho Chengguo was shocked by his own actions. Why am I kneeling? Wasn't it agreed to take Xiang Beifei out of the tracks? Why am I the one kneeling instead? Ho Chengguo's face turned bright red with anger as he tried to stand up, but found that no matter what, he couldn't stand up. But just then, with sharp eyes, Ho Chengguo suddenly saw Xiang Beifei's figure and immediately shouted, There he is! This time everyone saw clearly that Xiang Beifei was indeed a real person. Others also saw Xiang Beifei, but because of the flood, they found it hard to disengage. Yu Hongba, you help us watch these SRs? We'll go deal with him, shouted Ho Chengguo. Okay. Yu Hongba had to take care of his own men, otherwise the SRs would be directly drowned by the flood. Zhu Xinjue's eyes revealed a streak of ruthlessness, and a huge glass ball appeared in his hand. The flickering glass ball transformed into a phantom ray of light, enveloping the void. This time I want to see where you can go, Zhu Xinjue sneered. This glass ball was a UR-class spatial system item that could make any teleportation irrelevant. Since everyone had a forfeit talisman, Zhu Xinjue was worried that Xiang Beifei would escape. Soon, Ho Chengguo, Zhu Xinjue, Chun Baiwen, and He Chodong surrounded Xiang Beifei, their strong presence no less formidable than the flood, staring intently at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei, although I know you are strong, now that there are 4 of us, I advise you to forfeit, He Chodong said. unclear of Zhu Xinjue's plan and wanting, like Chen Baiwen, merely to eliminate Xiang Beifei from the contest. Xiang Beifei looked indifferently at the 4 people before him. 4 easier to handle than 5. Right? We don't want to harm you. Just exit the battle to avoid trouble, Chen Baiwen said gravely. However, Hou Qingguo and Zhu Xinjue were filled with endless murderous intent. What are we waiting for? To eliminate him, we need to take him down first, Hou Qingguo exclaimed. He was confident enough this time facing Xiang Beifei, although he didn't understand how he had lost during the last match in the arena. With 4 against 1 this time, Xiang Beifei was certainly a dead man in his eyes. Hou Qingguo gritted his teeth and said, "Today, I will make you pay the price." That day, being an SSR and thrown into a trash can, he lost face immensely. Today he must kill Xiang Beifei. 3 against 2, still manageable, not too bad, Xiang Beifei said. 3 against 2? Zhu Xinjue scoffed. Have we scared you silly? Can't you even count anymore? Right now, it's 4 of us against just you. President Ren is so reputable and esteemed. He even said, names aren't important, strength is. A senior who can say such words must be very open-minded. How could he fuss over small matters like names with me? As President Ren's proud student, why don't your ideals align with his? Xiang Beifei looked confused at Hou Qingguo and added, haven't you even learned the basics from him? His words were impeccably ironic, first giving Ren Zhonghai a jab, then immediately elevating Ren Zhonghai to a high status such that Ren Zhonghai couldn't rage over Xiang Beifei's teasing about names, at the same time subtly undermining Hou Qingguo. You! Hou Qingguo was so infuriated by Xiang Beifei that his face turned red and his ears steamed. In midair, Li Zimu stood there, surprised, watching the people below and said, they actually can't tell. The flood here was transformed from Li Zimu's poetry realm, and Li Zimu's poetry realm had now reached a realm where it was hard to distinguish truth from illusion, but Hou Qingguo and Chen Baiwen were SSRs a system level higher than him, and their cultivation was also higher, so theoretically, they shouldn't be so embarrassed. Of course they can't tell. None of these people are system awakeners of the spiritual type, Xiang Beifei said. Xiang Beifei's spiritual power was attached to the flood created by Li Zimu's poetry realm. So even though Li Zimu only had a late-stage chi-controlling cultivation, the flood he created still had the power of the meridian opening stage. Eh? Xiang Beifei looked in surprise at Elder Luo's system interface. As a person who was 2 realms more advanced than him, he couldn't see their system interface. At most, he could only see the system information of someone 1 major realm stronger than himself. Therefore, with his God-refining realm, he was unable to see the system interface of someone in the heavenly connection realm. But after Elder Luo's cultivation level suddenly soared to the late heavenly connection stage, the fact that he could see Elder Luo's system display meant that he had stepped into the orifice transforming stage. What? He had actually reached the orifice transforming stage? This left Xiang Beifei completely dumbfounded. Was he an expert of the orifice transforming stage now? When did this happen? Why was there not even a slight sign? Wasn't it agreed that only after fully opening all 7 orifices could one formally enter the orifice transforming stage? Then why had he only opened 2 orifices, but already transformed his orifices? Was he cultivating a false orifice opening technique? Xiang Beifei himself was utterly confused. Without a system display, he didn't even know his own cultivation level. He always had to rely on others to determine it. But this time he confused himself as well. He was certain he had only opened 2 orifices. However, his power had increased a lot. If he were to encounter someone like Pang Si again, he definitely wouldn't suffer a loss. However, his power was quite strange and couldn't be taken as a standard for measuring cultivation levels, as he had managed to kill someone in the early orifice transforming stage while he was still in the late God refining phase. So did he really qualify as being in the orifice transforming stage? Now he was stumped. Maybe he should spar with Mr. Yi to determine his strength? Mr. Yi could no longer beat him. Elder Luo also found this strange. He had already reset all the system points once. Perception ability. 99,999. This level of perception ability was sufficient to clearly discern all activities within a 1,000-mile range, down to the tiny movements of a fly rubbing its hands together. Yet, despite this, he couldn't detect any change in Xiang Beifei. "Did you really open 2 orifices?" Elder Luo asked doubtfully. His perception ability was already at the limit he could reach, and enhancing it any further would exceed his load capacity. Though he could add points at will, every ability had a maximum value. Exceeding it could easily cause backlash against himself. Maybe. Xiang Beifei was uncertain. His method of advancing in cultivation was strange indeed, and practically no one in Juzhou cultivated on their own without system help like him, so there was no reference standard, and even now he couldn't be sure. "Then do you know which 2 orifices you've opened?" Elder Luo asked. "My system didn't give any hints. It wants me to figure it out myself." Xiang Beifei replied. "How can you be so silly?" Elder Luo exclaimed, eyes wide. The kid was usually very shrewd, so why did he act like a fool every time it came to the issue of realms? If not for knowing that this kid was peculiar, Elder Luo might even think he was being played with. "Come, let me explain." Elder Luo snapped his fingers, and the scenery around them instantly transformed. In front of them, a phantasmal image of Xiang Beifei quickly condensed. This was an illusion created by his spiritual power. Close your eyes and carefully sense your spirit in your mind. There are a total of 7 orifices. Which orifice you have opened will be displayed, like if you open the eye orifice, here would usually light up. Elder Luo tapped on the eyes of the Xiang Beifei phantasm in front of him twice, and his eyes emitted a golden light. If it's an ear orifice, mouth orifice, heart orifice, and so on, light will also appear accordingly. Eventually, when the body orifice is opened, the body will undergo a qualitative change, outlining your spirit with a golden edge. Like drawing and tracing. It's about like that. The spirit looks as if it's framed, gleaming. Elder Luo explained in the most straightforward language. Is that so? Xiang Beifei pondered internally since he had seen his spirit after opening the orifices, and it didn't quite match Elder Luo's description. He slightly closed his eyes and carefully felt the orifice perception on his spirit. In his mind, he could sense a spirit identical to his own physique sitting cross-legged. According to Elder Luo's description, a normal spirit, if all 7 orifices were completely opened, would see all the orifices on the spirit gleaming during perception. However, his spirit had no light in the eyes, mouth, or nose, and nothing at the heart either. Only 2 strange spots of white and black light slowly rotating at his chest. These 2 points of black and white light resembled the yin and yang fishes of the Grand Ultimate, revolving around each other, maintaining a balanced state for the body. This was like his 2 orifices. Beyond that, he couldn't locate a 3rd orifice, nor did he know how to proceed to the next orifice opening. "Did you perceive it?" Elder Luo asked. "I suppose. But I didn't feel your orifice perception." "Are you using it to protect yourself?" Elder Luo asked. Xiang Beifei shook his head. He hadn't done anything. "Then try to deploy your orifice perception. If there's a change, I might be able to determine which 2 orifices you've opened," Elder Luo said. "I'll give it a try." Xiang Beifei was still uncertain about his orifice perception, but when he attempted to use his spiritual power to communicate with the black and white orifice perception, the rotations of the 2 orifices slightly quickened. However, just as he was doing this, Elder Luo and Professor Guo suddenly couldn't help but frown, because Xiang Beifei was clearly sitting right there. They could see with their own eyes that he was still cracking sunflower seeds, but somehow, they could no longer perceive his presence. It was as if there was no one sitting where Xiang Beifei was. This kid was like a background, completely unnoticeable. It is known that martial artists have very strong perception, especially Elder Luo and Professor Guo. It was impossible for them not to notice someone sitting right in front of them. But Xiang Beifei was precisely such an exception. Elder Luo and Professor Guo looked at each other, unable to help themselves from poking Xiang Beifei's arm. They could touch him, but they still could not perceive him. What strong orifice perception! Elder Luo and Professor Guo both exclaimed softly. This capability to protect one's own orifice perception was extremely powerful. Even Professor Guo couldn't achieve this, and Elder Luo had only reached this level after reaching the heavenly connection realm using his spiritual power. Xiang Beifei could actually do it now? No wonder they hadn't noticed how Xiang Beifei arrived earlier. It turned out to be this way. You opened 2 orifices. How can you have such strong orifice perception? Professor Guo asked in astonishment. I don't know. Xiang Beifei shrugged. Go hit Guo with a punch. Let's see what your cultivation level really is now. Elder Luo urged. Come on. Give it your all. Professor Guo stretched out a fist. Xiang Beifei did not hesitate, his hands forming a powerful fist intent. Without another word, he smashed it directly towards Professor Guo's fist. Boom! Xiang Beifei's fist, enveloped in flames, struck Professor Guo's fist, the terrifying power exploding instantly like a fierce tsunami, the aftershocks rumbling outward. But Professor Guo's fist remained immovable, his defensive power extremely strong. Xiang Beifei's attack was still not enough to shake him. At that moment, a strong force of backlash spread from Professor Guo's fist, beginning to roll towards Xiang Beifei's spiritual power, intending to send Xiang Beifei's force back at him. However, Xiang Beifei also immediately surged with a force of backlash. Ready for a head-on collision with Professor Guo, he had to test his current strength to see what level he was at now. Buzz! Xiang Beifei drove the 2 orifice perceptions within his body, and as the 2 orifices rotated, the blazing flames on his fist suddenly changed, turning from a bright red to a bizarre black and white flame. The black fist flame and the white fist flame intertwined, wrapping around Xiang Beifei's fist. Just then, Professor Guo's force of backlash was also sweeping over, about to devour Xiang Beifei's spiritual power. However, Professor Guo quickly became stunned when he discovered that Xiang Beifei's spiritual power had become extremely strange, and he couldn't devour it at all, let alone send Xiang Beifei's force back. How could this be? Professor Guo was shocked, his force of backlash actually falling short. If this continued, he couldn't bear it. He immediately diverted Xiang Beifei's force towards his left hand, and then slapped it towards the lakeside behind him. Boom! The violent spiritual power instantly evaporated the water in the lake. However, the palm wind was still not enough, still needing to blast out across the campus. Elder Luo was also quite astonished, but he quickly regained his composure, his spiritual power tumbling as he caught Professor Guo's palm wind, then forcibly suppressed and dissolved it. Their clash's aftermath thus did not affect the entirety of Liangzhou University. Professor Guo is amazing. I still can't budge him. Xiang Beifei withdrew his hand, somewhat helplessly stated. This punch was his all-out effort, but it seemed he still couldn't break through Professor Guo's defense. Professor Guo was even sitting down, not standing up. Professor Guo. Yet, Professor Guo was immensely shaken inside. Although both were forces of backlash, they nearly canceled each other's force, and theoretically speaking, his power should be stronger and sufficient to surpass Xiang Beifei, but unexpectedly, he couldn't send Xiang Beifei's force back. This strength is only present in the early stages of orifice transforming. You are already in the orifice transforming stage, Professor Guo hesitantly asked. It seems I probably am. Xiang Beifei could tentatively confirm. After all, with visibility of Elder Luo's cultivation level and after Professor Guo's recognition as a strong practitioner, he should undoubtedly now be in the orifice transforming stage. It was just these solitary 2 orifice perceptions that kept him puzzled. Hiss! Elder Luo and Professor Guo both involuntarily drew in a breath of cold air. You've actually reached the orifice transforming stage, Elder Luo asked in disbelief. Even though he always told himself not to appear inexperienced, Elder Luo found it impossible to maintain composure this time. This kid, he was too frightening. He had been cultivating for a year, progressing directly from the chi-controlling stage to the orifice transforming stage. Zhou Guan slouched lazily, hands cradling the back of his head, as he followed behind Sun Zhong. He wasn't particularly interested in this job and kept muttering all the way. After reaching the 3rd floor, Sun Zhong patrolled down the line of rooms. You have patrolled the N-level talent review department. Patrol points +2. You have patrolled the N-level talent dispatch department. Patrol points +2. Sun Zhong took extra time to circle twice in this empty room and pressed a button on the wall to confirm the alarm was working correctly before he left the room. You have patrolled the main archive room entrance. Patrol points +5. Just then, Zhang Xing thought of something and quickly took out his phone to video call his son. Then he asked, "Son, you said you've seen Xiang Beifei before. Take a look. Is this person Xiang Beifei?" Although the students from the elite schools weren't present at the freshman competition back then, it was broadcast live, and anyone with eyes could recognize him. Zhang Xing's son, though from Jizhou University, had seen Xiang Beifei before. The moment he saw Xiang Beifei, he exclaimed excitedly, "It's him! It's really him, the genius who stepped on that SSR from Qingzhou University. Dad, you actually met him? My gosh! That was the legendary genius. So you really are that Xiang Beifei." Zhang Xing was also stunned. His son had mentioned the freshman competition to him before the holiday, and at that time he was highly impressed by Xiang Beifei. Little did he think that today he would coincidentally meet such a grand talent. A moment later, he quickly regained his composure, excitedly saying, "It's definitely Xiang Beifei. My son is from Jizhou University, and he has seen him before." Xiang Beifei put the matter aside for the time being and asked, "By the way, Uncle Kong, are there any houses for rent nearby? We're thinking of moving over there to live." "House? Sure, you should have moved over here long ago. The old man has always been talking about saving money for you to take on tasks and whatnot." "Why the sudden change of mind?" Kong Daming asked. "Xiao Fei is growing up. If the house is shabby, he won't be able to find a wife," Xiang Qingda said seriously. "Ha ha ha, that's true." Kong Daming nodded in agreement. But Lu Hong disagreed. "How could that be? If she really likes him, she wouldn't care about the house. Still, it's better to live in a nice place." "The old house is too dark," Kong Daming said. "Leave it to me. I remember a family on my floor just moved out, just 2 door numbers away from my place, directly across the diagonal, so moving over here would be better, easier to look after each other." "So when is Uncle Kong's restaurant opening?" Xiang Beifei asked again. How the desolate beast One-Armed Crab appeared remained unclear, and the person Xiang Beifei currently suspected had not yet been found. Xiao Sheng, the fake SR-level staff member, who before the desolate beast appeared, ran off somewhere unknown. He wanted to see if Xiao Sheng would come back to work. The day after tomorrow. The staff has been asking about it too. Speaking of which, I need to contact those employees since we've been closed for so long, Kong Daming said. Then tomorrow I'll go to the wholesale market. We've had no supplies for a while. I need to negotiate with them again, Xiang Qingda added. Kong Daming quickly said, "No need, Uncle Xiang, you rest. I can handle it. We've been idle for so long. It's good to get moving. I'm familiar with that place anyway, and there's a lot to do for reopening the restaurant. Many customers have made reservations and are waiting to support the reopening. You'll be busy, so I'll handle it tomorrow," Xiang Qingda insisted, waving his hand. Unable to persuade him, Kong Daming could only agree. When Xiang Beifei got home, he made a point of talking to his grandfather in front of the living room camera, explaining why he wanted to move, plainly saying that he now knew how to make money and didn't want to live here anymore. For a martial artist at the Meridian opening stage, earning a living was extremely easy. Those surveilling their home, as long as they weren't foolish, would ascertain Xiang Beifei's current cultivation realm after a simple inquiry at the school. Nobody would doubt such an excuse. That way, whoever was watching would likely relocate to the new home. Xiang Beifei was curious to see who would try to install surveillance under his watch. After discussing this, Xiaohei proceeded to block the camera again. The grandfather-grandson duo spent the evening packing up. It turned out they had quite a lot of belongings. "We'll have to call for a vehicle, since there's no elevator, and we'll carry everything down together." Xiang Qingda pondered over the most convenient way to move. "I can handle the stuff myself. Grandpa doesn't need to worry. Just rest," Xiang Beifei suggested. How could that be? How could you move so many things alone? I'm still capable of working and can help you carry them, Xiang Qingde said, worried his grandson would overexert himself, as moving was backbreaking work. Amused, Xiang Beifei replied, Grandpa, why do I always feel like you've forgotten again that I'm a martial artist? What's wrong with martial artists? Many martial artists have to hire people when they move, don't they? Xiang Qingde said. Xiang Beifei stomped his foot again, and all the packed boxes began to float, hovering in midair, lighter than a feather. He made the objects weightless and then used his spiritual power to lift them all up. Xiang Qingde watched in amazement. I didn't even know you had this ability. Xiang Beifei realized he had rarely mentioned his own abilities to his grandfather. He smiled, set the objects down, then glanced at the camera on the ceiling and said, Don't worry. From now on I'll handle everything. Grandpa, just take it easy. Xiang Qingde was stunned for a moment, gazing at Xiang Beifei in a daze. Once upon a time, he had been so careful to protect his grandson, to protect his self-esteem, telling him to be positive and hopeful, wishing he wouldn't give up on himself. But since the awakening system, his grandson had become a different person, diligent, cheerful, and now a martial artist in the meridian opening phase with the ability to protect himself. It took a while for Xiang Qingde to come back to his senses, and he smiled. The awakening system really is a good thing. Only then did he suddenly feel old, in need of protection from his grandson. That was fine too. He was happy to see his grandchild so sensible. Moving wasn't difficult. For ordinary awakeners of level N moving without a suitable space-related system, they had to hire moving companies, rent a vehicle, and spend a sum of money. Xiang Beifei didn't need to, just have Xiaofei blow bubbles to do it. Xiaofei is now a big star. In the future, we'll all rely on you. Kong Daming joked. Isn't being a star very tiring? I've heard they have to go and shoot all sorts of films every day. Lu Jiwei said curiously. That won't do. Xiaofei has to cultivate. Lu Hong said seriously. Without realizing it, he had changed from calling Beifei Xiaoxiang to Xiaofei. In his mind, Xiang Beifei was still a martial artist and should prioritize cultivation. Chen Xiuqin walked in from outside and laughed. I won't lie to you. These past few days I've received so many calls from talent agencies. They know I know Xiaofei and keep asking about related commercial activities, offering lots of money for Xiaofei to sign with their companies. What did you say? Kong Daming asked. Of course, I said we would consider it. How could I decide on such a thing? We still need to ask Xiaofei's opinion, Chen Xiuqin said with a laugh. She didn't agree outright but also didn't reject the offers completely, leaving a choice for Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment and said, I do need to cultivate and don't have time for movies and commercials. But if I have time, I could start a column specifically to teach everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so that people wouldn't panic when facing such situations. He needed to use this identity to properly guide everyone. Lu Hong's eyes lit up and he nodded. Right. Many civilians who live in the inland cities have a shallow concept of desolate beasts. Most lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is good. Strong desolate beasts were common for martial artists, but for civilians, encounters were still rare. Xiang Beifei, being a martial artist, naturally should engage in promotional activities as one. That's great. Then I'll help you promote. As a celebrity, you need to have a specialty, and as a martial artist, you should promote yourself in the way of a martial artist, Chen Xiuqin said, who worked partially in the entertainment industry and was familiar with a lot of stars. She knew exactly how to do marketing. As Xiang Beifei's #1 mom fan, she was more than willing to help him. That was settled, then. Xiang Beifei didn't have to do anything. When the next semester started and he went on missions to the outer realms, he could simply shoot a few videos, an easy task. But on second thought, does she really think she can do as she pleases with my fame like this? The ones who tried to profit off Xiang Beifei's fame last time had already been dealt with by him. This time, they thought of using him as a figurehead without consulting him, clearly intent on pushing him into the spotlight. The Alliance's reason for wanting such a prodigy to be exposed was quite clear. The main reason was that Xiang Beifei was brought up by Elder Luo. Elder Luo was not on good terms with the Alliance. The people from the Alliance even feared him, because they couldn't suppress such an SR-level awakener who would not obey their commands. Worried that Elder Luo would cultivate his own power in Liangzhou University. With the emergence of a prodigy like Xiang Beifei, it brought a great threat to them. So they had to act against Xiang Beifei. Normally, once someone is exposed, it's hard for them to go back to being low profile. Wherever they go, they attract attention. By exposing Xiang Beifei like this, they were forcing him to stand by the Alliance's side, making him subject to surveillance by everyone in Juzhou. In this way, Xiang Beifei would hardly be able to oppose the Alliance in secret. His every move would be under their watch. Later, whatever the Alliance planned, Xiang Beifei would have to cooperate. To the Alliance, Xiang Beifei would become a piece that could contain Elder Luo, in a special way to isolate him, monitor him, and weaken his influence. Forget it. I'll go find Grandpa. Xiang Beifei put away the video, then walked out and soon found his grandfather wandering around the kitchen, supervising the work. Xiaofei, you're back. Upon seeing Xiang Beifei, Xiang Qingde immediately showed a happy smile, walked over, pinched Xiang Beifei's arm and said, "You've gotten thinner again, you need to eat more." "Okay." Xiang Beifei nodded. In the eyes of the elderly, his grandson seemed to have lost weight every time they met. The people washing vegetables in the kitchen were also thrilled to see Xiang Beifei, all greeting him enthusiastically. "Hello." Xiang Beifei politely greeted these people. The people here were very familiar with him. Everyone was proud to work under the arrangements of Xiang Qingde. After all, he was the grandfather of a national figure. Xiang Qingde took Xiang Beifei out of the kitchen, and while they were walking, he asked, "Xiaofei, are you eating here today?" "Okay." Xiang Beifei nodded in agreement, but his gaze fell again on his grandfather's system interface. It was still a snowy screen, strikingly conspicuous. Xiang Qingde didn't know what Xiang Beifei was looking at and cheerfully said, "Then I'll go and stir-fry a couple of dishes later." "There's no need for that much trouble. Just something simple will do, Grandpa. Let's go for a walk outside instead. Give ourselves a break," Xiang Beifei suggested. He was about to venture to the outer wilderness next, and if he went searching for Comrade Xiang Tianqing, he didn't know when he would return, so he wanted to spend more time with his grandfather. "Okay then." In the past, Xiang Qingde would work from dawn till dusk selling vegetables, saving money for Xiang Beifei to perform system tasks. Even though he no longer worried about money, he seldom went out as he was probably too used to being busy to settle down. In the park, there were many people taking walks back and forth. Xiang Beifei slightly disguised himself to avoid causing any unnecessary sensation. The grandfather and grandson leisurely walked in the park, chatting happily along the way. Xiang Qingde was quite talkative. Working in the store, he often chatted with people there and encountered many interesting things. For example, recently a man's child awakened an SSR-level system, and as a father, he was overbearingly proud, feeling as if he had ascended to the heavens in one step. There was an N-level waiter at work who accidentally touched this man's clothes and was immediately grabbed and accused by the man of deliberately soiling them because waiters are lowly. At that moment, the waiter was terrified and quickly called Kong Daming, but Kong Daming couldn't smooth things over, so he had to ask Xiang Qingde to intervene. Once the man saw Xiang Qingde, he immediately panicked, and his arrogance was extinguished, apologizing with a sheepish grin. "Boasting because he awakened an SSR system? My grandson awakened an N-level system. Have I ever boasted?" Xiang Qingde said proudly, hands behind his back, head held high. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but laugh silently. In his grandfather's eyes, an N-level awakener was even more impressive than an SSR-level one. "Haha! Thanks to you, my words now carry more weight than those of SSRs. They know you've beaten up countless SSRs, so they don't dare to be presumptuous in front of me." Now wherever Xiang Qingde went, he was praised. After all, he had raised a prodigal grandson. Parents of SSR-level awakeners wouldn't dare confront Xiang Qingde unless their children were as formidable as Xiang Beifei. The grandfather and grandson sat down in a pavilion in the park. The summer cicadas softly sung from the willow branches, the breeze gently rippling the lake's water, presenting a beautiful scenery. It being the weekend, Many people were strolling around. "Grandpa, have you ever heard of the Kangji Abyss?" Xiang Beifei asked. "The Kangji Abyss?" Xiang Qingde pondered for a moment and replied, "I seem to have a faint recollection. Saw it somewhere last time. Why do you suddenly ask about this?" "Just curious. I can't think of anyone else to ask about it." "Strange. I've heard of it too. It rings a bell." Xiang Qingde thought for a moment. "My mind conjures up many people." "Many people?" "A bunch of vague figures all in white. Not very clear in my memory. They seem to be searching for something," said Xiang Qingde. "Why would Grandpa have such an impression?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Not sure, probably just dreams. I'm getting old. Memories are a bit jumbled. Sometimes I even dream about people covered in tentacles running around." Xiang Qingde laughed. Xiang Beifei was slightly taken aback. "Grandpa has never mentioned these to me before. Is that important?" "Hard to say. What else has Grandpa dreamt about? People that scatter with a single touch, people bursting into flames, a tall stone tower, a sonorous stone bell, several mountains pierced by chains, a stone statue torn apart in the sky. I can't be sure, just flashes of scenes, unable to connect them," Xiang Qingde explained as he rubbed his forehead. Xiang Beifei was puzzled. "What are all these things?" "I don't know either. Dreams are hard to explain accurately. But I remember the sound of that stone bell quite well. I heard it dong, dong, dong. I remember the melody because I usually like to hum it. Perhaps it's a case of daydreams becoming night dreams," hummed Xiang Qingde in the tune he often sang while cooking or sweeping. Xiang Beifei pondered slightly, opened his notebook, and recorded what his grandfather had said. "Are you recording what I said again?" Xiang Qingde asked. "Yes, when I have time in the future. I'll write a biography for Grandpa," Xiang Beifei said offhandedly. "Haha. Grandpa isn't that important a figure. Who would read it?" Xiang Qingde laughed. "How could there not be? A senior who raised an N-level genius. Wouldn't everyone be curious? I could title it, 'How is an N-level genius made?' Xiang Qingde tells you how to raise an N-level genius grandson. The senior behind the popular choice. All definite selling points." Xiang Beifei organized the information he had just mentioned and copied it into Comrade Xiang Tianqing's Pioneer Stone. Xiang Qingde chuckled. "That's true. Many people come to me for advice, asking how to raise their N-level children to be as outstanding as you. Haha. I always say it's like raising piglets. Just keep up with their nutrition. And they don't believe it." Xiang Beifei, the grandfather and grandson idly chatted as they continued their walk in the park. But just as they reached a fork in the road, a figure suddenly ran over in a hurry, standing at the junction looking around anxiously. Xiang Beifei was surprised to find it was Lu Jiwei. "Hey, what are you doing?" Xiang Beifei tapped Lu Jiwei on the shoulder. Lu Jiwei immediately jumped back a big step, her fist already clenched, and turned around warily. Upon seeing Xiang Beifei, she exclaimed happily, "Oh, Beifei, it's you. Long time no see." Seeing Xiang Qingde, she quickly said, "Hello, Grandpa Xiang. Xiao Wei has become quite the beauty." Xiang Qingde laughed. "Grandpa Xiang flatters me," Lu Jiwei said with a giggly smile. "What's wrong? You seem startled," Xiang Beifei asked. "I was chasing a criminal," Lu Jiwei said, rubbing her fists. She had now reached the meridian opening stage as a martial artist, thanks to Xiang Beifei, who had forcefully refined a beast pill from the god-refining stage into pure spiritual power, aiding her in successfully opening her meridians. Recently, Lu Jiwei had started her internship at the city's guard team, working under her dad. This girl, wild by nature, loved to fight, and was totally enthusiastic about such tasks. "And then," Xiang Beifei asked, "That's when I lost the criminal," Lu Jiwei said dejectedly, hands on her hips. "That thief, so infuriating. He has a cloning skill. Now I don't know which way he went." Xiang Beifei stroked his chin, looking at Lu Jiwei's system interface. "Current deduction accuracy, 9%. Well, isn't that something, down from 11% to 9% over the past year? Touching." Aren't you good at deducing? Use your deductive skills to see which direction the thief could have run, Xiang Beifei said. But my deductive skills are terrible. Lu Jiwei sighed, a hurdle she could never get over. For her, deducing was too exhausting. Nothing beat the directness of drawing weapons or throwing punches. Don't worry, I'm here. You deduce, and I'll give you pointers, Xiang Beifei said. Lu Jiwei's eyes lit up, and she nodded. Okay. In her eyes, Xiang Beifei was a super deduction master. Even before he had gone to university, he had helped the guard squad solve major cases, which had made Lu Jiwei incredibly envious back then. Just thinking about getting pointers from Xiang Beifei filled Lu Jiwei with confidence. She started to crouch and inspect the scene's footprints at the fork. The weeds in the cracks of the ground tiles have just been broken. The traces are still fresh. At least 4 people stepped over here. Analyzing the direction of the footprints, they should belong to a 2-meter-tall man. The footprints overlap. The grass here is blown away. It seems like someone in a hurry tore through here. According to my deductive logic, this means he ran to the left. Should I go left to chase? Lu Jiwei asked, her hands on her hips, bubbling with excitement. No, you should go right, Xiang Beifei said very surely. Why? I'll explain after you catch the criminal. Okay. Lu Jiwei quickly ran toward the right fork. About 10 minutes later, Lu Jiwei returned, dragging a short man about 1 meter and 50 centimeters tall. This man had awakened the R-class clone system, currently capable of producing 2 clones, but unfortunately, he was using his abilities for petty theft. Now he was beaten black and blue by Lu Jiwei, looking quite pitiful. Lu Jiwei excitedly waved over, saying, Wow, Beifei, your deductive skills are still so amazing. I chased to the right as you said, and actually caught him. Tell me quick, how did you deduce he would run right? Xiang Beifei spread his hands and said, By eliminating the wrong answer, what's left must be the right one. Huh? What do you mean? Lu Jiwei didn't quite understand. Because you deduced that the criminal ran to the left, that means he definitely ran to the right. Xiang Beifei said seriously, Your deduction had to be wrong. I thought you knew that. Lu Jiwei turned to stone on the spot. Upon hearing what Elder Luo said, everyone had no choice but to stop complaining. Yi Changfeng and Yu Qixin sat quietly to one side, not speaking anymore, watching Xiang Beifei and his group. Xiang Beifei and his friends remained silent. After a long while, Long Guocheng was the first to speak. Tomorrow's competition, our first match is the second round, against Qingzhou University. We don't know who they will send to face us. Xiang Beifei said, The person Qingzhou University sends out tomorrow will definitely be Ho Qingguo. No doubt about it. Long Guocheng asked, Are you so sure? Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs, 1 UR, plus 2 SRs, and they haven't confirmed their roster yet. Xiang Beifei said, It'll definitely be Ho Qingguo. After all, he rejected Liangzhou University and chose Qingzhou University. He must prove to others that not choosing Liangzhou University was the right decision, and the way to prove it is to defeat us personally. That's true, Li Zimu said thoughtfully, nodding. I think he was humiliated by you today. He would want revenge. Xiang Beifei, do you have the ability to defeat Ho Qingguo? Shi Qiao asked. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. The expressions of Long Guocheng and the others improved slightly. They all recognized Xiang Beifei's ability and knew how formidable he was. Although this guy is not an SSR, his strength is outrageously strong. With him around, even if Liangzhou University couldn't match the overt strength of those 3 universities, it was enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with other schools. But if the other schools all send SSRs against us, we are almost certain to lose. Xiang Beifei can only play twice, meaning at most he can win 2 points, but the 4 of us are likely to lose, Ma Ziqin said. Unless we find a way to prevent them from using their SSRs against us, Li Zimu said. Now they all think we're easy targets. How can we change their minds? Long Guocheng asked. It's simple. We must let them know we're not that weak, Xiang Beifei said. Li Zimu caught on and said, I see our school also needs to have someone who has undergone Meridian Opening. That way they won't send all Meridian Opening players against us. That means tomorrow, against Qingzhou University, you must play Xiang Beifei. A person can play a maximum of 2 times, so after Xiang Beifei makes his first move, just revealing a bit of his strength is enough to deter people from other schools, making them wary. Understanding that Liangzhou University wasn't a persimmon that they could necessarily crush, because if they send out an SSR and happen to meet the tough opponent Xiang Beifei and lose, other schools won't simply send their SSRs to seek out Liangzhou University. This ability is quite unique. Anyone with sins, whether desolate beasts or humans, can be targeted by it, and a strike gate automatically forms in the mind. Even if the strike gate is not the opponent's original weakness. It's like the triangular thunderkite whose original weakness is in the eyes, but if Yuqishin uses his 7 deadly sins kill, he can forcibly twist that weak point to concentrate elsewhere, like shifting the gate to the tail of the triangular thunderkite. Then, as long as Yuqishin hits the tail of the triangular thunderkite, it will surely die. That ability is amazing. Forcibly changing the opponent's weakness? Xiang Beifei was quite impressed. Yes, I heard that originally there were 2 SSR Awakeners who were supposed to come to our Liangzhou University, but because Liangzhou University admitted an N grade, those 2 SSRs looked down on our university and went to other elite schools instead, said Long Guoqing. Didn't that make the university furious? To lose 2 SSRs over 1 N grade student. Exactly. That N grade Awakener really knows how to cause trouble. Just then, Xiang Beifei exclaimed in surprise, because he noticed that a figure had suddenly appeared behind the baby. That figure had almost teleported there, holding a sword in hand and exuding a powerful aura, unaffected by those tentacles. It was Yi Changfeng. Yi Changfeng frowned as he looked at the infant and then slashed out with his sword at the baby. The baby seemed to realize what was happening, but before it could turn around, Yi Changfeng's sword had already split the baby in 2. However, the baby didn't dissipate. After being split, countless tentacles sprang out from its body, merging into the tentacles around it. Seeking death, Yi Changfeng gripped his long sword and slashed forward once more. This slash was like a bolt of lightning, mixed with a terrible might, and the cold sword chi stretched hundreds of meters, actually splitting a rift in the tentacles-filled sky. The tentacles were slashed apart, still trying to coalesce together, but soon enough sword chi explosions burst among them. Boom! 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 All the tentacles failed to escape under Yi Changfeng's sword and were destroyed throughout the city. The tentacles were shredded by the sword chi, and the remaining ones shrank back towards the ground in fear, quickly vanishing from sight. Stay here and don't run around. Yi Changfeng tossed his sword up, and the Long Yuan sword hovered overhead, as if protecting them, while another sword appeared in his hand. With one step, space flickered, and he vanished into thin air. Thank goodness Mr. Yi came. Fan Kai breathed a sigh of relief. If Mr. Yi hadn't arrived in time, they probably would have been done for on this trip. But Sun Yushan didn't quite understand and asked, "What kind of desolate beast is this thing? How come we've never seen it before?" The 2 had trained in this cultivated domain for 3 years and were roughly aware of the types of desolate beasts present. While some were powerful, none had ever been as troublesome as this time. They hadn't expected to almost lose their lives today. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then turned to Xiaohe and said, "Xiaohe, you should be able to take him out of this space, right?" Xiaohe nodded. This was a space created by the system, and no power of the system could trap Xiaohe. It could leave the system's constraints at will. "Then take him out of this space first. Just let him stay in the forest," said Xiang Beifei. Nobody knew what dangers lay on this isolated island, but whatever had injured Lu Gue to this extent meant it was no longer safe to leave him here. It would be better to drop him into the forest outside. Xiaohe jumped on Lu Gue's body, and with a little stomp of its paws, Lu Gue's body began to look strange. Xiang Beifei could still see him, but he could also see the forest floor outside the space. "That should do it. Xiao Ma and the others might come looking in the forest. We need to continue looking for the others," Xiang Beifei mentioned. Lu Gui's current condition should prevent him from being harmed by any desolate beasts on the island. Xiang Beifei needed to find Lu Jiwei and He Yun quickly. According to their earlier descriptions, this forest was very unsafe and could kill them. Xiang Beifei continued to leap forward, and after about 5 minutes, a frantic sound suddenly came from the woods, followed by the people from the school who could provide him with useful system rewards were only the teachers. Even the S-grade students were still only at the early stages of chi controlling, and their task rewards were not useful. He had inadvertently taken part in many teachers' tasks. These individuals became teachers due to their own system choices and often carried out tasks on their students. But system rewards didn't come overnight. One had to wait for the other party to complete their task to receive the reward. Some people's tasks took a long time to complete, a few days at the least and several months at most, so even if one took part in a task, the reward wouldn't come quickly. However, Xiang Beifei had his principles. Some teachers and students had been quite good to him, struggling to complete tasks to improve themselves. It would be unfair if they lost their reward, so he wouldn't target those people. As long as they didn't rub him the wrong way, everyone could get along harmoniously. During the 2-day weekend, Xiang Qingde went to the vegetable market while Xiang Beifei stayed home, continuing to practice the Chaos Yin-Yang formula, and finally broke through to the mid-stage of chi controlling. He found that his pace of improving strength was faster than that of those S-grade awakeners. Even Zhou Jing and Lu Chenro were still in the early stages of chi controlling, and many of the R and N grade students hadn't even reached the threshold of chi controlling yet. Everyone had a system and relied on completing tasks to improve their strength. Of course, some systems provided their hosts with various cultivation techniques, mainly to enhance physical fitness, which required personal cultivation. Clearly, the rate of advancement was different. So you're the N-grade freshman who plans to get into Liangzhou University using public opinion pressure? A voice questioned. Heard your academic grades are quite high, but do you think our elite university is a place just anyone with good grades can join? Another boy sneered. Come on, let sister take care of you and teach you how the word elite is written. A girl in revealing clothes stretched and dug out her ear with her little finger. Hey, you Xiaoyao, we were here first. We're here to establish authority over the freshmen. So your Flowery Moon Snowy Club can wait in line. A tall boy shouted. The girl known as Yu Xiaoyao let out a string of silvery laughter, saying, What's wrong? Did you guys from the Mount Tai Club feel sore about losing to us last time, and now you're looking to regain face from an N-grade awakener? Is this the best you can do? What do you mean? We were just going easy on you girls last time. Can't you tell? The tall boy retorted. Hee hee. That's quite interesting. Ding Ming, since you guys like to yield so much, why not do it again? Yu Xiaoyao giggled, twisting her slim waist. We're all teaching a lesson to some ignorant kid on behalf of our school. Why fight over it? Someone spoke up. Lu Jiwei frowned and stepped in front of Xiang Beifei, shouting, Hey, are you done yet? He's under my protection. Whoever dares to touch him, just try it. At her shout, Yu Xiaoyao and the others all stopped to look at Lu Jiwei. Lu Jiwei, does your detective society also want a medal in these troubled waters? Yu Xiaoyao watched Lu Jiwei cautiously. She still had to be somewhat wary of Lu Jiwei. After all, Lu Jiwei wasn't an easy person to provoke. The tall boy, Ding Ming, sneered at Lu Jiwei. Lu Jiwei, are you saying your detective society plans to shelter this trash that's tarnishing the reputation of Liangzhou University? Don't pin such a big hat on us. At this moment, a buzz-cut boy stepped out from the crowd and responded, then turned his face, frowning at Lu Jiwei, saying, Lu Jiwei, what are you doing? Why are you with an N level? Don't ruin the reputation of our detective society. Lu Jiwei said angrily, Are you guys idiots? How has Xiang Beifei tarnished the reputation of Liangzhou University? The news has said that it was Yu Lei who staged the whole thing by himself. And here you are, living in your own notions, deliberately rejecting the truth, aren't you? Anyone can speak in the news, but I won't let an N-level person set foot in our Liang University. He doesn't deserve it, right? This is a gathering place for elites, not a trash disposal center. N-level people, get out of Liang University. N-level people, Get out of Liang University. Many people began to shout, although nearby, a few students did not join in. They were just watching from the side. Not all elitist students were aggressive. Some were pretty rational. However, looking at the scene, there were too many people hostile towards Xiang Beifei. Even if rational individuals spoke up, they might inadvertently become targets for attack. Lu Jiwei was very angry. Someone from their detective society was looking for her to tell her not to cause trouble. But Lu Jiwei was not someone who shied away from trouble. She was fervently arguing her point with the other party. Lu Jiwei, if you keep defending this N-level person, our detective society will have to draw a clear line with you, the buzzcut boy said. Draw the line, then. You think I care? Lu Jiwei rubbed her fists angrily and declared, Come on. I'll put it here today. If anyone dares to touch a single hair on him, they'll have to answer to my fists. Lu Jiwei, if you're so eager to fight, why don't I have a go with you? A boy stepped forward, looking at Lu Jiwei. This boy was also an advanced chi-controlling expert. Lu Jiwei watched him warily. This person was clearly not easy to provoke, but she did not back down. However, Zhuo Jing's expression wasn't looking good. Now, Xiang Beifei had become the focus, and his fortuitous score of 581 no longer attracted others' praise. He had to actively seek it. What's the use of scoring high? Act as if you can go to an elite university. Zhuo Jing jealously spat in his heart. Of the 9 elite universities, only Liangzhou University accepted N-level awakeners. But even for Liangzhou University facing N-level students, they needed to set thresholds and wouldn't easily allow them to pass. And Zhuo Jing, with his scores, would easily make it to an elite university. Zhuo Jing looked at his system panel. His appreciation value had reached 5,129, enough to exchange for the piercing strike cultivation technique. Another task required a score of 550 points, collecting 2,000 likes to exchange for a double appreciation card, which he had also completed. But he was not in a hurry to exchange. Now was not the time to exchange for cultivation techniques. At this moment, Qiu Junyou's mind was entirely focused on how to cooperate with Elder Luo to protect the safety of Jiuzhou. He was even too preoccupied to care for his own potted plants, determined to perform his job well. Protecting the safety of Jiuzhou, supporting Elder Luo's stance, and opposing Lady Qiu had indeed become his current priorities. There was no time to delay. Work hard. Xiang Beifei patted Qiu Junyou's shoulder. Yes. Qiu Junyou's attitude towards his work had undergone a complete 180-degree change. Xiang Beifei didn't say much else. Controlling others was not Xiang Beifei's intention, and he didn't like using this method. Puppet-like governance was meaningless. But extraordinary times require extraordinary measures. If he needed to make everyone in the alliance cooperate with the Su Alliance's actions to handle the beast eggs and protect Jiuzhou, then this was currently the best method. The alliance's departments themselves were very problematic. The system of favoring higher ranks allowed all kinds of incompetence to flourish within the alliance, and with someone like Lady Qiu involved, internal strife within the alliance was severe. Elder Luo had long been reluctant to change the alliance because it was too troublesome to change. Only direct iron-fisted suppression might affect change, but such methods could easily allow desolate beasts to take advantage of the situation. But Xiang Beifei was different. He didn't need to worry about the suppression by higher ranks over lower ones, nor worry about his abilities being countered by someone like Lady Qiu. His respected as a criterion could completely alter the thoughts of people like Qiu Junyou. As for Lady Qiu, his respected as a criterion likely still couldn't affect her, but Xiang Beifei didn't need to bother with her. The reason Lady Qiu was confident was that she had garnered a large number of people who were fiercely loyal to her. These people either revered her UR system, sought power and status from her, or were controlled by her system abilities. However, Xiang Beifei's respected as a criterion was superior to Lady Qiu's systems. He just needed to turn all of Lady Qiu's subordinates. Once that was done, no matter how powerful Lady Qiu was, she would just be a commander without troops. Without anyone to command, what waves could she still make? When Lady Qiu realized that the subordinates who used to obey her suddenly turned against her, she would probably go mad with rage. It seems I need to make a trip to every important department. Xiang Beifei stretched lazily. For his mentor back home, he just had to run these errands. Juzhou was too vast, and it was unrealistic to control everyone. But he could control the leaders of all departments within the alliance, making them honor Elder Luo's commands and defect to his side. As for the others, you two know what to do, right? Xiang Beifei called out to the people outside the door. Two people quickly entered from outside. It was none other than Wu Wan and Yang Chengze. Wu Wan was from the Archives building, an awakener of the S-rank persuasion system, who had always worked in the Archives department dealing with the unemployed. He used to persuade lower-rank awakeners to take jobs they didn't want, but later Xiang Beifei directly reversed the persuasion on him. Yang Chengze, a teacher at Qingzhou University, had awakened with the SR-rank subliminal influence system, which could implant his thoughts into others' minds, altering their cognition. Initially, he was the one who helped Zhu Xinjue completely make over. Yes, boss, we understand. Wu Wan and Yang Chengze both responded respectfully. The employees in the alliance, those below S-rank, Wu Wan, you handle them. SR-rank, Yang Chengze, you handle them. Make sure to tell them to oppose every person on this list. Firmly support Professor Luo. Obey Professor Luo's orders. Do their jobs, and protect the entire Juzhou. Xiang Beifei handed a list to Wu Wan and Yang Chengze. On it were Lady Qiu and some other UR-ranked masters who specifically aimed to eliminate Elder Luo. Xiang Beifei still didn't have the capability to eliminate these people, so he had to settle for making these people mere commanders without troops. Understood. Wu Wan and Yang Chengze quickly left. Yang Chengze was responsible for handling part of the alliance's SR-rank and all S-rank employees, while Wu Wan was in charge of some S-ranks and all R and N-rank employees. As for Xiang Beifei, he would handle those SSR-rank and UR-rank employees who hadn't reached Heavenly Connection, making all of them align with Elder Luo. Now, with desolate beasts hungrily eyeing the situation, the alliance also needed a proper transformation. Unbeknownst to everyone, a silent storm had already swept through the entire alliance. The alliance was quietly changing. A week later, Chang Furong was still researching the matters concerning desolate beasts, and he had recently discovered that the most likely gathering place for the marsh black monster's eggs was at the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant is again under the management of the Alliance Development Department. What a hassle. Lately, Chang Furong had been dealing with these issues and understood how significant the obstacles the Sioux Alliance faced in handling this matter were. The Alliance Development Department was simply uncooperative. Investigating a place could be delayed for a long time. He had no choice but to consult Elder Luo. The people in the Alliance Development Department. This department really needs a thorough overhaul. Elder Luo was extremely annoyed inside. This department was supposed to protect the safety of Juzhou, yet it was extremely negligent in such a critical matter, which made him very angry. It was clear without thinking that Lady Qiu and her cohort were the ones thwarting them behind the scenes. The old witch roamed around casting spells every day. It was bad enough that she did not cooperate with handling the beast eggs, but she even sabotaged their efforts secretly. Let's go, I'll go myself, Elder Luo said. He immediately took the Sioux people with him to the wastewater treatment plant. By this time, Lady Qiu had quickly gotten word of it and stealthily made her way over. She had been having a pleasant time lately. Whenever she saw Luo Yunxian heading somewhere to deal with beast eggs but achieving minimal effect, she found it very gratifying. Luo Yunxian, oh Luo Yunxian, although you are powerful in combat, when it comes to power struggle, you are still too green to wrestle with me. Lady Qiu stood on the second floor of a building, looking at the distant Luo Yunxian and sneering repeatedly. Over the years, she had firmly controlled nearly 2/3 of the top level of the alliance. These senior awakeners, each of them looked up to her as their leader, daring not to disobey. The remaining 1/3 included some who were from Lu Laosan's faction. Although there was competition among them and Lu Laosan was also of the idol faction, perhaps the two did not get along in other aspects, but when it came to dealing with Luo Yunxian, Lu Laosan and he definitely stood together. Junyu, now you should understand how to deal with this matter, right? Lady Qiu stood with her hands behind her back. looking at Luo Yunxian and a group of Su Alliance members getting ready to dig into the wastewater. A group of Su people were surrounding the wastewater treatment plant, surveying the terrain, and they were about to find a person in charge to assist them. Understood. Qiu Junyu stood behind, nodding seriously. Very good, you don't need to go down there yourselves. Just let them handle it. They will have to drain the wastewater to search for the beast eggs. Just say the wastewater is blocked, and you don't have the capability to dive. Let them dig through the wastewater themselves. Also, you must tell him not to use spiritual power to evaporate the wastewater, or it will damage the equipment, Lady Qiu instructed. She planned to let Qiu Junyu subtly sabotage Luo Yunxian's efforts. Agreeing outwardly, but without actually taking action, would allow all the work to fall on Luo Yunxian and his team, while the others simply watched the show. Understood. Qiu Junyu nodded slightly, then left to go towards the Su people. The Su people were frowning at the wastewater pool. The pool was very deep, a massively large wastewater pool. Here, the wastewater was not simply evaporated or dumped into the external desolate wilderness. The resources in Zhuozhou were limited, and the domestic wastewater also contained many recyclable materials. If directly dumped into the external wilds, many resources would be wasted. Therefore, they needed to purify the useful materials in the wastewater for reuse. The wastewater treatment plant was also one of the sustainable energy sources of Zhuozhou, which could not be taken lightly. It was strictly forbidden to destroy it directly using spiritual power. I feel this matter might also be difficult to handle. They probably won't cooperate with shutting off the wastewater, let alone let us destroy it directly. We might only get their cooperation once we confirm there are beast eggs inside, Chang Furong said. Since it was only a guess that there were beast eggs inside and not a confirmed fact, using harsh measures to destroy it would cause significant losses if they did not find anything. The Su Alliance's inspection efforts met obstacles at just such a point. Without complete certainty, they had to follow each department's regulations. Otherwise, using harsh measures resulting in large losses would lead to condemnation from the Alliance. That was also where Lady Qiu and her cohorts could trip them. Once the Su Alliance destroyed something but failed to find beast eggs, she could exploit the situation to incite others to condemn the Su Alliance, thereby discrediting Luo Yunxian. Elder Luo looked at the dark wastewater pool and said, "Go find their person in charge and ask. I'm here. I'm here. I've seen Minister Luo." Qiu Junyu came running over, a smile all over his face. Elder Luo's face darkened upon seeing Qiu Junyu. Not this guy again. How could he not know who Qiu Junyu was? This guy was Lady Qiu's grandnephew, who often took advantage of Lady Qiu's status to lord it over others in the Alliance, and as the person in charge of the Alliance Development Department, he was often the least responsible. "Why are you here?" Elder Luo grunted. Qiu Junyu wiped his sweat and said with a face full of awe, "I learned that you were coming here to search for beast eggs, so I specifically rushed over. Minister Luo, please state whatever you need, and I will make sure they comply." Elder Luo narrowed his eyes. How could he believe a word Qiu Junyu said? In the distance, Lady Qiu chuckled to herself and muttered, "Excellent, outwardly compliant but inwardly defiant, smiling on the surface but harboring a knife. June, this lad, really understands my mind well. First pretend to agree, then unexpectedly strike them down. If Luo Yunxian created difficulties, she would appear immediately. By then, she would be able to stand on a moral high ground and point the finger. In front of so many people, she would surely make Luo Yunxian lose face.